Hello everyone and welcome to Spindle TV. My name is Laney. It's good to see you. Hopefully everything is going well. We are getting ready to get things started, and tonight is a little bit of a different class. We're going to actually be doing a design. There's no pre-planning here. I had a friend whose beloved pet had passed, and she had had the pet cremated, and the crematory provided a box for the ashes. I'm trying to come up with the right words. A box for the ashes, and it honestly looked like just a crappy little old box, and so she did not want that to be the final resting place for her, beloved animal, and so she had asked if I could come up with a pet urn, and I thought, yeah, absolutely I could, and I'm going to design this urn from scratch. We're going to be doing some 3D modeling. We're going to be doing some vector drawing. We're going to be doing just some layout and concept design and everything. And I think by the time the end of the by the time we're at the end of it, we're going to she'll have a nice piece, a nice place for her pet to rest peacefully. And I'll go from there. Now, if I drag over onto the screen, let's get onto the proper screen here. And let's put me down in the bottom left. And let me adjust my camera just a little bit to get rid of that. All right, if we were to look at pet urns online and things, there's different shapes and sizes and everything. Now, just like a human urn, we are looking on the inside of the box, 1 cubic inch of space per pound for the ashes and everything. So like if it was a human, if someone weighed 210 pounds, we'd want at least 210 or a little bit more cubic inches of box space for the ashes. And the same thing with pets. We're going to average about 1 cubic inch of space per pound. And the dog Jethro weighed in around 60 to 70 pounds. So I'm looking for the inside of my box to be, a little more than about 75 or 80 cubic inches. And then, we can, determine the size by multiplying the length, the width by the height on the inside of the box. Now, looking at the boxes online and everything, there's all different types of shapes, whether you go long and narrow and short, as far as height, or if you go tall and, square and kind of tall to where the space is, depending on what the project is. Way more than 70 cubic inches of space inside. That's more like, on the inside and everything, we're more like about 150. And how can I be buffering right now? How can I be buffering? That wasn't on me, guys. I don't know why I'm buffering, because I've spent a lot of time and money today to on my system to make sure that doesn't happen. So anyhow, sorry, that's on that. My stream is healthy tonight. That's on YouTube side. The box that I'm going for, I was going to go long and narrow. But I think I'm going to go more tall and square due to the 3D models that I'm going to be using. Thanks, John, for letting me know. That better not happen again. Man, I'm freaking out because of that. Because I had to upgrade my computer. I had to do all kinds of things. New equipment for the router and modem, and was a very expensive day and everything. Lots of time yesterday and everything. All right. And so looking at these boxes, there's different types of designs and everything. Of course, none of them are what I'm going to be designing and everything. I just want to show you, you know, different concepts and things, you know, as far as height and size and all. So I think that I'm going to go more, probably more narrow and tall. But let me show you. Let's start off with the model that I'm going to use. Models that I'm going to use, and let me preface this by saying this. Most of the stuff that I'm going to be doing can be done in Desktop Pro and Aspire. VCarve Desktop, VCarve Pro, and VCarve Aspire. Vectric Aspire. Now, I am going to be working with more than one third-party model file that I purchased. I purchased all the models from cgtrader.com. And because they are third-party model files and they're STLs, they're not native to Vectric. .v3m is a native file to Vectric. But because of they're not native, I have to use Aspire to be able to bring in more than one third-party model file. If the file comes in as a V3M model, you know, as a native model file, then I could have used Desktop Pro or Aspire to lay out everything that I'm doing. So everything that I'm doing besides the models that I'm using can be done in Aspire, as far as the box making and everything like that, the designing and all that stuff. So even if you have Desktop and Pro and everything, and you see me doing stuff in Aspire, I'll let you know what's an Aspire feature and what's not. Don't get discouraged and everything. The only reason I'm using Aspire tonight is because I have model files, more than one third-party model file, and it's because of the particular situation. I got some model files that looks like the dog and everything like that. Now, speaking of the dog, let me just say this. This is the beloved pet. This is Jethro, who my friend's pet that passed, and so I'm going to be using a model that kind of has a little bit of a resemblance to Jethro, a lot of resemblance in a way, so there's going to be a dog model, and then I'm going to have some angels and stuff. So let's get into it, and we will go from there. All right. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm not quite worried about the job size just yet. I want to bring the models in and figure out what I'm going to do with them. Yeah, Keith, so am I. Jethro, he was a very good dog. Really, really, really good dog. And just loved everybody. There was no aggression or anything like that in him. He was just an angel. For right now, I want to bring the models in because the one model of the dog that I'm bringing in, it's an actual statue. And I'm not going to do 3D. I'm doing 2.5D, right? Where it's kind of flat. So I have to use a special feature in Aspire, which is very rarely used. So it might be something new that you guys and girls can see. But for right now, I want to bring the model in. And then I'm going to figure out the layout and size. Now, let me just pause here for a second and kind of do an audio check. I have a new air conditioner running in the back, like right behind the microphone. And let me know if you can hear me clearly or if the air conditioning is overtaking the audio and it's not very clear. So if you guys and girls that are watching in the chat could just let me know that, that would be great. That way I know if I need to turn it off or not. It's not too warm that I could turn it off, but if you can't hear me clearly. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for the purpose of bringing in this model and everything, I'm going to go with my 8 inches long that I was going to do. Okay, Jeff Porter, can't hear it at all. You sound fine. Wonderful. I can't hear the AC. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for letting me know that, because it really worries me, because I can hear it, right? You know, it's like running, you know, and I can hear it, and it's new for me in here in the office, and so it's like, oh, man, sounds so loud. All right, awesome. Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jeff, Troy, Ronnie. All right, so I'm going to go, for right now, I'm going to go 8 inches on my width, and I'm going to... on my height, I'm going to go 6 inches tall, just to give me a work area for right now, and I'm going to go 3/4 inches thick, because my box is going to be 3/4 inch walls and everything, and I'm going to touch off on the material surface, and I'm going to start, for me, I'm going to start in the bottom left corner of the material. Now, let me do something special for you guys, something new that I downloaded. Let me minimize this. I got a new mouse. Can you guys see that dot? Is that dot a good color? Like when I click the red dot and everything, so you can follow where the mouse is on the screen. Is the green a good color? Now, let me know if some people, you know, can't see green tones and all. Let me know that. And but I want you to be able to follow my mouse. That way you know exactly where I'm moving to and what I'm pointing at and what I'm clicking and stuff. So let me know if that's good for you and everything. But so we're going to go 8 by 6 by 3/4. It is going to be a two-sided job. I'm going to set it up as a two-sided job. You'll see why. I'm going to reference off the material surface for both sides, and I'll just flip along the y-axis, and I'm going to click OK. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Now, I found out, I'm finding out right now, as we are, green is good, good. I'm finding out right now, as we're getting into this, that my Stream Deck, it's called a Blackmagic A10 Mini, the streaming is going through that, and with all this new equipment, new system and everything, I'm finding out that my Stream Deck is the one that's kind of a bottleneck a little bit. So I think I'm going to be switching over to StreamYard, a different streaming platform that I was a guest speaker the other night on someone's video, Mark Lindsay's private class, and he was using StreamYard, and everything was going very well. But with my current Stream Deck that I'm using, not Stream Deck, my A10 Mini that I'm using for my switcher, if you will, it's bottlenecking. I can tell there's a little screen over here to the right that shows what it's putting out, and it's bottlenecking my stream. So that is also, that's something I didn't switch as of right now, because I didn't have enough time yesterday. I mean, I just literally finished everything like an hour ago as far as getting the system ready. But anyway, here we go. Let's see here. Yes, I can see your mouse. The green mouse highlight works. Awesome. Everybody's good. Cool. Cool mouse. Good, good, good. If I need to change color, red, whatever, you know, because some people can't see green tones and stuff like that, I understand. You know, I have a lot of customers that can't see greens and things. If I need to change the color of that mouse, let me know. All right, let's get started with this. Now, I am in Aspire, so what this first part here, getting this model in and laying it out, is an Aspire feature, because the model is a statue, and I have to emboss this model to make it a flat design. So you're going to see the embossing function happen. You're going to see the embossing function happen right now. So we're going to import a 3D model. Okay. And on the screen, I'm going to go into a top view. And depending on how the artist brings in the model, thanks, Brooks. Yes, you're welcome. Depending on how the artist created the model, it determines how the model's flipped when it comes in. So I'm looking like a top view down. And I apologize about that. I'm looking at a top view down. And let me turn on the do not disturbs on these phones. So we're not interrupted. And just like if we were looking, like if we were carving over the table, right? So I need to flip this dog. I need to flip it up in the front position, but not that far. I got to make a few adjustments. And this model is actually anatomically correct and everything, so I want to make sure that I don't show too much of the dog's little wee there. But let's get it sized down to an appropriate size, and then we're gonna do some orientation here. So let's get the size down to I'm gonna go 5.5 inches on the height. 5.5 inches on the height, and I'm gonna center it. Now I'm gonna jump over to the position and import window. If you're in an older version of the software, down at the bottom of the screen would be the position and import window. But in the newer software, you flip over to here. And I'm going to bring the model plane, the zero plane, down to bring the model forward. And then I'm going to back up to this window here. And again, go into the front view. And now I'm going to, this orbit right here on the screen, I can move my y-axis up and down, or my x-axis left and right, or I can rotate round and round the orbit on the screen. And so I want to move left to right, and I want to spin this model to the left. And what I'm going to do is I actually want the front paw. Let me go a little bit more. There we go. I actually want this front left paw right here to cover his Johnson. I want to have a bit of this look here where he's kind of looking off to the side. And then I'm going to use my y-axis, and I'm just going to bring him down just a little bit. Okay, all right, let me recenter. All right, and so I'm going to bring them down just a little bit more. What I'm doing is it's the y-axis, so it's this motion, and that's this up and down here. I'm just going to pull it down just a little bit more, and think of it like wheels, right? Think of it like wheels, like a front and a back wheel, a side-to-side wheel, and then an around wheel. That's these wheels. So it's it's an orbit depending on which way you're turning and everything. And so I'm spinning this wheel, this vertical wheel, I'm spinning it, and on this one I want very light movement. Okay, and just a little bit more on the turn. There we go. Now imagine that on like it's going to either be the front of the box, or it's going to be on the top and all, and it's going to be flat. It's not a statue. I don't have the ability to carve a statue and everything. Better than a fig leaf, Brooke said. Yeah. So let's go ahead, and I think that is a good look. I think that kind of gives a little bit of his facial feature. Let me see if I can bring him down just a little bit more. Not too much. There we go. And over just a little bit. Yeah. Kind of just like that look, where he's just kind of got that head tilt and everything. I think that's going to look good. Now, because this is a three-dimensional model, right? I need everybody to understand this. If you've never imported a statue, almost like a 3D print, like for 3D printing, almost like a 3D print model that you're using for carving flat, all the space behind the legs, behind the ear that's out front, behind, you know, all of the kind of forward stuff and everything. When we import, when I do the final import in here on the model, the Vectric software has to build that foundational meat, that wood. You know, it's just got to fill in all that gap and everything. And so when I come in to get ready to import, let me slide that model down. And when I import that model, it's currently 6 inches tall, right? So it's going to look really strange when it comes into the software. And you'll see when it comes into the software, there's a 10-second delay from what I'm saying and what you're seeing. But it's upon import, all of behind the paws and everything is, you know, it's got all of this meat that the software has to fill in. Because if I was doing a top-down, right, looks cool, looks great, looks amazing, and all that stuff. But if I'm actually looking at it from the side, it's a 6-inch tall model. It's because it's a 3-dimensional model, statue type model. All of that stuff has to be filled in, right? All that wood has to be filled in. All that air gap, Vectric has to fill it in and everything. So, I absolutely can't carve it that way. And it just, let me look at it from the other side, right? From the bottom side and all. I just can't do that, right? So we have to do what's called embossing the model. So here is the steps and the procedure to emboss a 3D model into a flat 2.5D. All right, step number 1 is in the component tree, the uploaded model that we just imported. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to duplicate the model. We want 2 of them. Okay. Now, step number 2, the top model that's in the component tree, we're going to uncheck and make it invisible and turn it off for the moment. The bottom model, we are going to go into the properties and we're going to change the shape height down to however thick you actually want your model to be. And in my case, I don't want to be any more than 3/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch thick. So now I'm going to turn this up on its side so you can see what happens when I change the properties. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change the shape height to 0.25 and hang tight and let it resize. Okay. Now, so it's resized, it squished it down. Now what happened when it squished it down, it lost all the detail, right? It lost all the detail. But never fear, the next step is what brings or gives it the detail that it needs from our other copy. Okay, so this, if you guys and girls, any of my classes, if you ever paid attention to when I talk about combining models and when I talk about when we add one model to another, I sometimes refer to it as taking a bed sheet and draping it over a car. So the sheet being one model, the car being another, I'm adding that sheet, that top model to the bottom model. I'm adding the pixels of the top model to the pixels of the bottom model. And the sheet doesn't maintain its rigidity. It drapes over that car. It takes on the shape of the model underneath. So this bottom model that I just flattened out to 1/4 inch tall is my base. Not my detail, it's my base when we're doing an embossing. Okay? So From the front, it looks virtually no detail whatsoever. You know, absolutely no detail from there whatsoever. From the side, it's just flat, right? It flattened out and everything. Okay, so now step number 2. In our component tree, we turn off the base foundation, and I'm going to rename it real quick before I turn it off. I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to call it my base. And I'm working with 2 separate keyboards because I'm streaming for 2 different devices. So let me get over to this keyboard. I'm going to call it rename base. Okay. Now I'm going to turn off the visibility of the base, and I'm going to turn on the top version, the top version that we originally brought in. And again, remember, it is when we look at it from the top, it's still, you know, that full kind of meaty, you know, front model. All right, so now we have a tool here that says reduce the height of the component whilst, that's the word, whilst maintaining or retaining surface detail. So this one is going to reduce or squish the model. It's going to flatten the model, but its main focus is trying to maintain the surface detail. Okay, the surface detail. So when I click on the emboss, this is step number 2, click on the emboss. First of all, we have to have our model selected. Then we're going to emboss it. Okay. Now, in the emboss component, before we bring it down and everything, it's going to flatten out the model. So let's look at it from the side so you can see what happened. And it reduced it down, right? It flattened down all that back meat whilst trying to maintain the surface detail. But if we look at the surface detail, right, it's all these spikes. Let's really get up close and personal. It's all these spikes. It tried to maintain all that detail. Now we can't have that and everything. We can't have that, but you know, we can't work with that as far as it is right now. But what we need to do is the scale height. When we click that button to use the emboss tool, we are actually going to bring the scale height down to 1% always. In this emboss procedure, we're going to bring it down to 1%. Okay? We want 1% of the detail. All right? So it's looking better when we bring it down to that 1%. But it's flat as a pancake. I mean, it is absolutely flat. But it's, you know, bringing back that detail. Now, in the emboss component tool, we want to bring it to 1%. And on the smoothness, don't do all the smoothing here, right? It's kind of destructive. We want to do the smoothing on the back end or later on in the next steps and everything. If you're going to do any kind of surface detail smoothing here, I would recommend not exceeding, in this emboss tool, not exceeding 10%. Don't do your smoothing here. Okay? So 0 to 10%. Now I'm going to go 10%, and I don't know if you saw that quick change. Let's go back to 0. Watch and focus on the model and everything. It just kind of very, very subtle. I'll zoom in. We're going to go 10%, and we're going to try to just a light amount of smoothing. Not much of a change. Okay? All right. Now we're going to click OK. All right. And so now we have this flat sheet, right? This flat sheet with all the detail that we're going to drape over. And I'm going to right click and rename this, and I'm going to call it detail. emboss detail. I keep typing in the wrong screen or the wrong keyboard. Detail dash emboss. Okay. All right. So we have our detail emboss and our base. Now, here's where the magic happens to give our model some thickness and meat and everything. And I'm going to turn it kind of like this. Now we turn on the base. Okay. And that's going to give our model some thickness, some meat behind it and everything. Okay. And again, we're not done yet, but now we have a 1/4 inch thick model that has detail. Okay. That has detail. All right. Now, on our emboss, we can go into the properties, and on the shape height, let's turn this to the side. Let's bring it down like this. If I want to try to, increase the shape height or anything like that, 0.0962. Let me write that down so I don't lose that number, because I think I'm going to stick with it. 0.0692. I'll just make it like 1/8 of an inch so you can see the difference. If I want to build that shape height up any, I can. But remember now, when you do that, it's, that detail and all, it's going to start bringing back those spikes a little bit. Like if you look at the jaw and around here. So my personal recommendation, and you can do smoothing, right? You can do smoothing and stuff on that. But my personal recommendation would be let me turn that off, would be to kind of stick with that original height, right? So I'm going to put it back. Okay, 0.692. Yeah, I'm going to put it back and everything. All right, so now I have these two. Now these are my original, and here we've talked about levels before. My original dog, I'm going to rename this level. This is going to be my original dog. And I'm going to create a new level, and I'm going to copy both of these components into this new level, because I'm going to end up baking them and drafting them together to add little draft and edge work and stuff. So I'm going to select both the models, and I'm going to hold the control key down. Well, first of all, let me create my level 1. It's there. My level, I already created it. I'm going to take my two components, and I'm going to hold the control key down and drag a copy of them up into that new level 1. I'm going to uncheck the originals to turn the visibility of them off. And on my copies, I'm going to bake them together. Okay. And then I'm going to add a draft. Instead of the edges, let me turn this to the side. Instead of the edges being kind of straight, like they are here, that. Okay. Instead of the walls, the side edges being straight the way they are here, I'm adding a draft to give them a small angle. Now, I don't want to go, if I go too much of an angle, it makes it look weird behind the legs and everything. All I'm trying to do is just give it just a slight bit of angle, and I'm going to only go 10% on this. It's very subtle, the angle of that 10% and everything, but let's apply it. Let's apply it. And these steps would be, like, let's say I brought in the Statue of Liberty, right? Or I brought in the Empire State Building, you know, like the whole building. And I need to create that building, you know, that tower. I need to create that tower into an embossment. I need to emboss it down to create, like, you know, that front view to be able to carve it, you know, like on a flat board and all that stuff. I'm embossing that model. It's the same procedures here. All right, so all I did was create a small 10% angle here on the side. If I went too much, and let's go extreme for a minute. Let's go 21 degrees for a moment so you can see what happens. And you'll see, I'll spin it around so you can see it from the front. It just makes behind, in this particular case, might not be in all cases, but it makes behind the legs look weird because of the angle sticking out. It doesn't look natural when you're actually looking at the dog from the front, which you'll see there in a moment, and all. So hopefully this first 30 minutes of our class, this is the emboss feature. This is all the steps involved. The final step is going to be adding smoothing to it, and then we can incorporate that model into our design. We'll have it to incorporate into the design. So it's because it's trying to do this big angle, it's taking longer than normal. It's because it's just kind of swept out too far, but I want you to see visually what looks good and what doesn't look good and everything. So we're at 85%. We're almost there, right, rounding around the corner. And when it does it, I'll spin it around up front, or looking on the front view. And even from the side view, you'll see here in just a second. All right, so from the side, right, it doesn't look too bad. But when I come from the front, the head actually doesn't look too bad. But right here around the jaw, it's just a big angle, like sticking out. It's not, it's not, his jaw's not kind of it's not hidden, hidden geometry. And behind the feet and the paws right here, it's kind of poked out, and everything on this front paw, it poked out, and it just doesn't look natural with that big angle. So I'm going to put it back at my 10 degrees that I had and reapply that. And you'll see from a front view, this will be a little bit faster because it's not trying to do so much and everything. All it is just a slight angle outward, very subtle change, just to give it a little bit of shadow and definition in the background. And this is what our embossed 3D model looks like as a 2.5D from the front. So it'll carve looking like this, in the wood. If we were looking at it from the side, it would, just kind of look weird and odd. But we actually were carving from the top down, right? So that's the view there. And it's a good view. His, the way that I position him and turn that model, I'm happy with that for this urn. All right, let's go ahead and close that out. And so that's going to be my dog here. And the final thing that I'm going to do is, when I did the draft, it created the model with the draft. So I'm turning off that originally baked model there. And I'm going to add some smoothing to it. I'm going to apply some smoothing. And I'm just going to go a small percentage of smoothing. And that's the final little touch up on this model. I want to preserve the transparency. And I'm just literally, let's kind of zoom in. I'll kind of focus on his face and everything, his head. I'm just literally going to slide probably about not even a third of the way. Watch the details in the face, mainly. And all I did is just kind of knock down some of the high points and everything just to give it a bit of smoothing. I do not want to smooth too much. I don't want to lose the detail. All I wanted to do was just knock down some of those peaks, right? So when I'm going to click OK. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to cry on that. It looks good. But literally all I did was just knock down those peaks and just smooth them out some. Okay? Now, to get the best detail out of this model when it carves, because it's only small. Remember now, we're doing a very small urn. It's not very big at all. Right now, this particular model in size is, I believe, he's only 5 3/4 inches tall right now, and in the width he's only about 3 7/8 and everything. So very small, just going to be kind of like for either the top or the front. Now I thought about this. I've been thinking about this very hard and everything. Where I want to position him and everything on the the sidewalls and stuff. And I think I want him on the front. If this sits up on a mantle, I don't want it on the top where it's carved on the top and you can't see him. I think I'm going to do it on one of the on the front board. It'll have his name and all that stuff. I'll probably do his name and stuff at the top or something. Maybe a nice little V-carved saying or something under there. But I have some angels that I want to bring in too, and they're 3D models also. And I'd like to have these either in a dish or on each side of the box. You'll see the angels in just a minute. But let's now that we have this model, let's start designing the box. And then we'll go from there. Now, since you all are very visual individuals and everything, we're going to get out of the Aspire for a moment. Let me save this file, save as. And I'll just call it Jethro Urn. Typing on the wrong keyboard. Excuse me. Let that save. All right, everybody, let me know that you're doing okay. That was the end of the what's called embossing, a three-dimensional 3D print type model into a 2D view design. Let me turn off the color of red. So that's our model. That's what we ended up with. All right, cool beans. All right, now let's minimize this for the moment, and let's go into. I'm going to use SketchUp. If any of you are familiar with SketchUp, it is basically a 3D design CAD software for creating three-dimensional things, like if you're building furniture and all of that stuff. What I want to do is I want to actually design the urn, the box, right? So that when we actually lay out the vectors for the pocket cuts and the carves and all that stuff, you'll be able to at least see the visual of what the box is going to be, right? And so in the SketchUp, it is right now on a virtual third screen somewhere, hiding. So let me go to my display settings. My computer thinks I have a third screen. and I don't. So let me come down here and let me disconnect this display. Right. And let me identify, see what's 1, 2. Yeah, number 3 is, I don't know where number 3 is, but I don't have anything plugged in that would be a third screen. But let me extend the desktop. Okay. I might not be able to use SketchUp if I don't know where that third screen is. Let me disconnect. So odd and strange. Alright, let's go to my task window. Here's SketchUp. And will it let me drag onto move to new desktop. There we go. Okay. Let's see if I might not be able to use SketchUp, so you guys might have to just be able to visualize the 3D box. This new, I don't know where the third screen, what it thinks is the third screen, but all right, let's do this. There we go. All right. Delete. Whew, that was something. All right, let's go to our view. Let's go to our styles, and let's go. This is where my problem is going to be, my styles window and everything. All right, so I might not be able to change the styles because it's going to be in that virtual window, and I don't know where it is. Let me see. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll just work with it as it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to just draw as it is. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. Now, let's zoom in. We're going to have this green background. It's ugly, and hopefully you all can see it. It's not too distracting. But let's go with a camera standard top view down. And for the box, I'm going to go 4 inches. 4 inches by 6. 4 by 6. Okay. There we go. And on my push-pull, I'm going to go 3/4 inches wide, 0.75. That's my thickness. Now, if I do the math, length times width times height, inside dimensions. Remember, I got to account for if I'm doing a mitered box or dovetails or this or that, inside dimensions. So, if I'm doing 4 inches inside dimension by 6 inches tall, and that was silly, 4 by 6, by, if I go another 4 inches, I'm going to go 5 inches wide. I'm at 120 cubic inches. And again, Jethro was 60 to 70 pounds, so that gives me plenty of room. Plenty of room in there. The reason why I want 5 on the sides and everything, and it's also important, what was my model? Jethro's width here, Jethro's actual width on the sides, he was 3.8 inches. So 4 inches, he'd be like fitting right on the top. I want to give myself some room, right? But I am looking at inside dimensions and all that stuff. So let's actually change that. Let's go 5 by 5 square. 5 by 5 square. And because I'm doing a mitered box, the miters on a 3/4 inch thick material, top down, is going to be 3/4 inches. And so I need to be, for the actual width, I need to be at 6.5 inches. So I need to add 1.5 inches to that because of the miters that are going to be cut on the back. All right, so let's change our size here. This was already 4 inches. I'm going to extend it out another 1.5 inches. Okay. And now for the measurement, what I have here, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm 5.5 inches on the width, and I'm 6 inches on the height. Okay. All right. Now, for this box here, it's going to be mitered. Even the lid. The 4 sides, or the 2 sides of each piece is going to be mitered. So is the top, because the lid is going to be mitered too, and it's going to fit inside, which you're going to see. We're actually going to build it right here. So it's going to be mitered, so the lid fits down and everything in the side. So what I want to do is I'm going to use my offset tool in SketchUp, and I'm going to offset from the edge here inward 3/4 of an inch. Okay, 3/4 of an inch. 0.75, enter. And I'm going to take a line, and I'm going to draw a line back straight here and here, so that only 3 sides has this, and I'm going to take and delete that line. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a protractor, excuse me, a protractor, and here I'm going to create a 45-degree guideline, 45, right? And so that way you can see that from my edge to my line here, that's a 45-degree miter. You guys with me? Guys and girls with me? 45-degree miter. And so 3/4 inch thick board, 45-degree miter is 3/4 inches offset on your lines, if you ever need to know that in the future. If you want to do a miter kind of like with a 90-degree V-bit, you want to do a miter cut in your software and everything. So that's a 45-degree miter. Now I'm going to take, this is still, it's not a full component, it's still individual. So I can grab different things and I can move things around and stuff and all. What I want to do is I want to take this line. Let me see if I can get a good view here. I want to take this edge and I want to pull it over to this edge. So I'm going to use the move tool. And that's the letter M keyboard shortcut. And I want to move this line into this line. Okay, and that's going to create that miter. You see that? And the same thing here, I want to move this line into this line to create that miter. So that's the two miter sides of my box. Now I also want to take this edge and move it in there, because the top of my box is going to be mitered too. Okay, so now that I've created that, I can go ahead and triple click on this. Click, click, click. That'll select it all, and I'm going to hit the letter G for group. And to make that a component. And I'm just going to leave it. I'll just give it the default name, component. All right, so now I have my box side. I can go ahead and flip this upright 90 degrees, because if I'm looking from a top view down, that, you know, I'm kind of looking at the top and all that, and I want to actually be standing up. So let me go to camera, side, front view here. So this is a front view, and what I want to do is I want to rotate this box here. I want to rotate it upright. So I need to escape out of that. I need to be over here more so. I need my black one. All right, now the rotate is tricky. I need to be, it's kind of wanting to rotate on this angle here. So let me rotate my part first, and then I'll do my miter. So I'm going to step back 2 steps, and let me rotate this first. So I want to triple click on it like this and hit group, and then I'm going to hit the Q for the rotate, and I want to flip that up 90 degrees. Now that I'm standing upright, now I'm going to ungroup this, explode it, and I'm going to pull my miter in with the move tool. I'm going to move this line back in like I had it before, and this one here I'm going to pull in and back in. Okay, alright, so now that I have that box side, group that back together. Now I need 3 more, right? So let's go with the move tool, and I'm going to hold down the control key when I move this, so that way I'm moving a copy. So there's 1 side, 2 sides, 3 sides, 4, right? 4 sides. All right. Now, letting go of the control key, I'm going to move this over to here and snap it to that side. And I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees, 90 degrees, to put those 2 sides together on that box. Okay. I'm going to move this one over. Oh, hold on. Get out of that move tool, or get out of that rotate tool. I'm going to grab this and make sure your item is selected that you're moving. So let's grab that here and snap it over to there. Q is rotate keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees to close in that side. Okay. Now, while we're right here, let's take a quick look at something. Remember, the lid's going to come right down to here, so let's take a measurement. And yeah, Sylvia, it is awesome software, and I think you downloaded it the other day, so it should be something that's going to be fun for you to learn. We're going to measure from here to here, and that's 4 inches. From here to here is 5 1/4 inches, and from here to here should also be 4 inches. Yep, so 4 by 4 by 5 1/4. And if I did that math, clear, 4 times 4 times 5.25 equals 84 cubic inches. So for a 60 to 70 pound dog, I'm pushing them about 15 cubic inches over, or over the 70 cubic inches and all. It might be a little bit tight, right? And all. So I need to, if I'm going to do anything right now, because I'm going to bring these vectors into, I'm going to show you how to import SketchUp vectors into the Vectric software. If I'm going to do this, I need to make sure I size it the right size, right? And when I'm sizing, it's got to kind of be done before the mitering and everything, at least on one side, at least on one edge. So if I'm at 4, if I extend this out another ½ inch, right? If I extend this out another ½ inch, that will give me, if I go 4.5 by 4.5 by 5.25, that's 106 cubic inches. I am more comfortable with that. So that's what we're going to do. I need to extend this out another ½ inch. So over here, gotta back up a few steps. You gotta take steps back to move forward. So let's take steps back. I'm going to get rid of the copies. All right, and let's ungroup that. And I'm going to use my move here, right? And all I need is one side still square. I'm going to go to my push-pull tool, and I'm just going to be dragging this side out more, and when I drag it out, let me hit undo. From where it is, when I drag it out, I just have to type in the distance I want to move it. And no, John, the bottom is going, this is going to be screwed to a base so that they can load the ashes, and the base gets screwed on, so the base actually gets screwed right to here. So I'm not going to lose any cubic inches with the base. So while I'm here, when I pull this out and everything, I need to know the measurement that I want, that I want to pull out and everything. And what I'm going to do is basically this line, I just need to move the inside another ½ inch. I'm just going to go another ½ inch. I'm going to gain another ½ inch. And so we're going to pull this out this way, and I'm going to type in 0.5 and hit enter. Okay. And on my line here, don't do that. I'm going to get out of that push-pull tool. Make sure you're out of that tool. On this line here, I'm going to move it over a ½ inch. So I'm going to grab this line and pull it. Well, I'm going to move it over 0.5, right? So that was my 0.5 there. So this, I need from here, I need 3/4 of an inch for that miter. So on the inside to inside, let me take a measurement here. From here to here, I should now be at 4.5. So my miter is going up to this line, so I need 3/4 of an inch from there. And so I'm going to pull this back to this line, and then I'm going to pull it out and type in 0.75. Okay. All right. And I'm going to move this line in. All right. And let's not do that. On my, I got to put my line back in here so it knows where to move to and all that stuff. But I'm good with that shape. All right, let me draw a box here. All right, 5.25 comma 4.5 enter. There's my, that box there I'm going to. I need to delete this line so that I can move this one back into that miter. When that line was there, it kind of was trying to twist that side, and it was throwing it off. All right. So that's that. And now I can pull this one, move down to here. All right. And once again, before I make any copies, I'm just going to verify I should be at 4.5, which I am, by 5.25. Perfect. All right. Triple click to put it in component mode. Hit G for group and enter. And then move tool, hold the control key down when you're moving, and that creates duplicates. So 1, 2, we'll just move that over there, 3. All right. Get out of that, select your new part, and use the move tool, M for move, and snap that to there. Okay, so it's side by side. And I'm going to do this one too. Spacebar, grab that one and move. M for move, and snap that to there. Cool. Now Q for rotate, and I want the blue surface. I want to rotate on my blue axis from here to here, 90 degrees. Select this one. Q for rotate on my blue axis from here to here. I want to rotate 90 degrees. Okay. This one here, I actually just, on my blue axis, I want to rotate, oops, make sure you got the right part selected before you do that. On the blue axis, I'm just going to rotate this guy 180 degrees around. And then move him, grab it on the corner, move it, not him, move it there. Okay. So there is my box. All right, that's going to be my box. Now I need to create my lid. And of course, outside long point to long point, I'm at 6 inches. 6 inches, right? So I need to, I'm going to draw a box lid there. Now that's just a flat plane right now. It's just a flat plane. So I have to do all the miters and all that stuff and everything. I'm going to push pull this up. My lid is actually going to be 3/4 of an inch thick as well, because I'm mitering it down in there and everything. So it's going to be 3/4 inches thick, the lid. So 0.75 on the push-pull. Okay. I'm going to use my offset tool and offset inward on all four sides, 0.75. Remember that offset I need? And then I'm going to move this line to here. This line to here. This line to here. And that line to there. Oops. Snap to it. Alright, now, that's not the top, that's the bottom. It's got to flip 180 degrees, but before I do that, I got to triple click on it. So it selects all of the walls for that. G for group. And now I need to rotate, Q for rotate. I could rotate it like this manually, you know, and everything, but I have a very cool tool called flip. So I can come over here and flip along, and I can flip it along the blue axis. So that turns it upside down. See that? And then I can move that part down into place. Right? Okay. Now I'm just gonna hide. I'm gonna hide this wall on the front so you can see. So come up here and go hide. And you can see that lid sitting down in there, right? And the reason why I'm going with a 3/4 lid is because I'm going to carve something in the top, maybe an inscription, the name, dates, or something like that. But that's that. That's my box. All right, let's unhide that. Don't need to, but let's unhide it. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to save this, and I'm going to call this file save as, and I'm going to call it in the, I'll go into downloads. I'll just do it in downloads, kind of that's just for right now. I'm going to call this Jethro Urn, and I'm going to hit save. I'm not going to draw the base. The base is just going to be a flat piece with a decorative side edge and all and everything, but my base is going to be flat. It's going to, this is going to be pre-drilled. And so when the ashes get loaded, they get loaded from the bottom. And then this will get a silicone caulk type seal. It'll get put onto the base, and then they'll screw it in. So it becomes waterproof or whatever the case may be, you know, and it's permanent, you know. You can't open the lid or any of that stuff. And if they ever, for whatever reason, you never really want to disturb, you know, a resting place and all, but if they ever need to, they could remove the bottom. But that silicone seal is going to help kind of, you know, you don't glue it on and everything. For whatever reason, something could happen, right? And then you might need to get to the ashes. Okay, so now that I have that box and saved and everything, I can get out of SketchUp and come back to here. And I'm going to just take and create a new sheet. And sheet 2. Now, I'm going to have this board's going to be longer. When I cut it, follow along with me here. It's not really going to be, it might, if everything works out well. I think it should. It should. Since I'm going to do the miters on the CNC, what I'm going to do, my board's going to be longer so the parts can lay side by side, because I'm going to do the miters and the cutout and everything and all that stuff, because I want this to be a continuous grain to the best of its ability box. When it's all glued together, all four sides, I want the grain to just wrap around. Okay? And so this particular sheet, this is going to be my box sides. And not necessarily, it's not necessarily going to be the lid or anything like that. No, it's going to be just the box sides and all. But I'll make sure that I can get all the sides and everything cut out of it. this box needs to, the board and everything, imagine I'm at 6 inches wide, right? 6 inches for each piece. So there's 4. 6 times 4 is 24 inches. I'm just going to go 36 inches. 36 inches. And so we're going to edit this. And on the width, it's going to be 36. And on the height, remember on the inside, I was 5 1/4. 5 1/4 plus 3/4 is 6, right? That 3/4 miter is 6 inches. Tall. And I am going to do a 1/8. So it's going to be 7 1/4. That'll give me some room to play with. 1/8 is 7 1/4, and by 3/4. Okay. All right. I am nothing changes here, so I'm just going to click OK. And close that. Not cancel, Laney. Not cancel. Close. All right. Now I ended up had the wrong box highlighted when I edited it and changed it and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply rename this to box sides. This one's going to be box sides. Okay, and the first one here, I'm going to rename that to just my main board. What's happening there? All right, let's try this again. Right click and rename. Let's do this. We're gonna call this one real quick. Rename main. Enter. There we go. There we go. There we go. And we're gonna call this one rename box sides. I don't think it liked the fact that I was using the name twice. All right. Now, in here on the actual model here, I'm going to move this one to main, the other sheet. I'm going to move that model to main so that he's over here for now. And on my box sides here with it active, I'm going to import a vector. Okay, import a vector. And the SketchUp file, the SketchUp model right here, is what I'm going to be importing. And I want to do a flat layout, exploded view flat layout. Even though my box was actually assembled in SketchUp, it's going to lay out, it's going to explode that and lay out the 4 pieces, right? The 5 pieces, 4 pieces and the lid. I want to... auto-orientated is fine. Auto-orientate is good. Now, if I would have painted the inside of my box, all the different sides on the inside, I could have said orientate by material. The face is the selected material, is the top face, you know. I could have said, for a material surface, it was the black color or the red color or whatever, like if I painted the inside. But since I didn't, I'm just going to auto-orientate. I do not need the 3 sides. I'm not doing this as a 3D model. It's going to be flat carves with a VBit and Endmill. Create polygons for circles. Create arcs for boundaries. I don't have that. Group in parted parts. So I want to keep the parts separate, right? Keep the components. I remember the components. I made each one a component. I'll keep that. And replace outer boundary for flat jobs only. And what this does is create a single boundary for components, deleting all the parts touching the new boundary. Do not use if you have dados, edge features, and all that stuff. Well, I don't want to use that because I have the miter features and I need those lines to come in. If I didn't, it would kind of remove those lines and replace it. And I would lose where the lines were for where those miters go and stuff. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to replace the outer boundary. I'm going to be bringing in, and I could have set that in SketchUp. I could have put all those parts on layers, and I could have imported by a layer, but they were all just on layer 0. So I'm just going to click OK, and here are there's my lid, the top, and there's my 4 sides. This one's upside down, but that's fine. But there's my 4 sides. Okay. They're currently grouped together, so I'm going to ungroup them. All right. And I'm going to just rotate this one around so it matches everything. All right. Now, when I brought this in and everything, there's going to be lines, overlapping lines and everything and stuff. But I'm not worried about that. If there's duplicates and things like that, I'll deal with that later. But right now, I need to deal with just my miter. You know, that miter cut. All right. Let's get our boards laid out. So I am going to group this back together for the moment. Group that one individually, but though. Group. 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 I am going to draw a line across the center of my board using spacebar to finish the line, but using the line tool, and that line tool, follow the mouse, is over here. And that line, the purpose that it's serving is, let me make sure this one's grouped too. Also, not two, grouped also. Group. I want to take my 5 objects here and select them first. I want to hold down my shift key and select that line last. I want to align them to the center. And what I can do, let me just make it simple. I don't have to have this one way up here. Let me just get this one on the kind of in the realm area there. Good. Perfect. Wonderful. All right, let's select those again and select that line last. I am going to align them up and down on that line so they're all in alignment, and I'm going to space them horizontally equal distance. Okay. So if I were to, just so visually so you can actually see it move, let me move this one over here. Let's move this one over there. Let's move this one over here, just so their gaps are all different and everything. And let me do that again. Select these 4 first. Select that line last. I'm using the alignment for the spacing and everything. So in that alignment tool, I aligned up and down. And then we are spacing horizontally, right? So the space and distance from here to here is the same as here to here, and between all those other parts. And they are centered on the board. Okay? Cool. All right. Yeah, Don. So Don asked the question: would it not have been simpler to make the box with outside measurements? Sure. Yeah, but my urn, my ashes have to fit on the inside. So the measurements I'm actually concerned about is the inside measurements. So after the all the miters and everything are done, I needed my inside measurements to be a certain measurement, right? And that inside measurement plus my 3/4 and my 1.5 inches gives me my outside measurement, right? So I'm just working from the inside out. But yeah, if it's easier for you to work from the outside and create your outside measurements, and as long as you know that you know, if I have a 6 by 6 by 6, it's going to end up being 4.5 by 4.5 by 5 1/4, right? If you know that and work from the outside in, that's fine. I want my inside measurements because I'm trying to figure out the cubic inches. Or I'm not figure out, I already figured that out. I am creating my box based on the cubic inches, the inside volume, so that the ashes fit. So yeah, but Don, yes, could have done it the other way, but I'm working with inside measurements for the purpose of my ashes have to fit. If I have, you know, my uncle, if I'm building an urn for my uncle and he doesn't fit because, you know, he was a big old boy and I got the measurements wrong, right? So I work on the inside. All right, Pablo, hey, spaced out. Spaced out. What do you mean spaced out? You talking about like the spacing? Spaced horizontally? Right? So that's spacing. So by using the alignment tool and the spacing, that makes sure that the spacing between each of the parts, in this case they're going to be 1 inch apart, right? So they're spaced evenly. Cool beans. All right, which gives me plenty of room for cuts and all that stuff. You know, every time that new mouse and all that new cursor, that green dot, I keep thinking I have a Vectric tool active because of the green dot. So I keep trying to go over to turn it off. And it's not turning off, and I keep forgetting that's my new cursor so y'all can follow along. All right. So, let's go ahead and hit save right now, just kind of where we're at. All right, cool. Okay. Now, on the inside here, let me show you how we're going to create that miter cut. Let's look at it from the side, from a side view. So let's say that I have a 3/4 inch board. Here. Okay. And my 45. Spacebar finish. I am going to be using a 90-degree VBit. Okay. And G for group. Group that together for a moment. Okay. I'm going to be using a 90-degree VBit. And so when the bit comes over on its vector lines to do the cut and everything, it's got to, that vector line, the center of the bit's going to be carving on the line, right? It's got to carve, you know, a distance over and down for the first cut, the second cut, and then the third cut for the miter. I'm actually, it's now again, it would be easier for me to take this over to my table saw and cut all 4 sides, right? Or all 3 sides on my table saw, tilt the blade to 45 degrees and use my table saw sled and cut the 3 sides, right? Versus doing it on the CNC. But for those of you that don't have a table saw or a way to make that cut, I'm just kind of, you're learning how to do a miter cut with a V-bit on the table. Okay? All right. So this is going to do it in 3 passes. I'm going to do it in 3 cuts and everything. And I can set those cuts up manually, or I could use the chamfer tool path in the Vectric software, right? The new, if you have, I think the chamfer came out, what, 10.5, I believe, something like that, Toolpath, and that would easily do my chamfer cut, you know, based on my lines and all. And so what I need to do is I need to extend my lines and actually draw, where they're going to be cutting and everything. So on the cut here, we're going to come here to here. That's going to be one cut. We're going to come here to here. That'll be the next cut, a cut. And then we're going to go across here. Right? I mean, my third cut. And the actual rectangle that would, let me close this tool first. The actual rectangle that, let me ungroup it. That actual rectangle, inside rectangle, I don't really need it for this particular cut because the bit's going to cut miter, miter, miter. And then it'll do kind of a profile cutout and stuff. The V-bit might actually, cut that, do that cut itself. But I'm going to show you both ways. Laying out a miter cut manually based on your 3 lines to do a miter cut. And I'm also going to show you the chamfer toolpath because some of you might still be rocking 8, 8.5, or 9 of your Vectric V-Carve Desktop Pro or Aspire, ladies and gentlemen. You can import a SketchUp file in Desktop Pro and Aspire, and you can everything I'm doing can you don't need Aspire to do what I'm doing right now. All right, cool. Okay, so for my spacing here, I've got 3 passes. One's going to cut a certain depth, the other's going to cut the next depth, and the other's going to cut the final depth, right? Quarter, half, 3/4. So 0.25 inches, 3 lines. And for each cut that it makes, it's got to step over, a certain amount, right? And since my step over here from that miter to there is, 3/4 of an inch, which it is when I measure properly, it's 3/4. That's going to drive me nuts unless I actually snap to it. Okay, my 90-degree line is evidently yeah. So I'm a little under 3/4, 7, 4, 8, 9. But this is just a mock-up. So anyhow, it is 3/4. It's going to be I'm going to divide this distance up into 3 lines. 1, 2, 3 kind of deal. So let's go over here and draw on this line. Let me get rid of that box. All right, on this line right here, I'm going to copy and paste. Copy, paste, it's on top of each other, and the new one that's on top is the new one that's selected. I'm going to move to the left relative 1/4 of an inch. Okay? Negative 0.25. Okay? On this one, Control C, Control V is also copy and paste. And I'm going to move that one. Move. Negative 1/4 of an inch. And on this one here, Control C, Control V, copy and paste, or you can use copy and paste there, or you can right click on the screen, copy and paste there. I'm going to move that one of an inch. And that is going to be my 3 vectors for my miter cut if I was manually doing the miter cut and not using the chamfer toolpath. I would be using the profile toolpath. So let me set that toolpath up for you to show you that cut. So the first cut is going to be here. And we are going to, and that's the center line, ladies and gentlemen, the center of the bit, center line. The first pass is going to be 0.25 inches. Starting at 0, cutting an 1/8 or a 1/4 of an inch. We're going to be using a 90-degree V-bit. Cutting on the line. And this is going to be my first pass. Calculate. Okay. My second profile toolpath is going to still start at 0. I probably could, because let's see, the bit is getting rid of their No, I'm still going to start at 0. This is going to go a 1/2 inch deep. Use the right keyboard, Laney. There we go. And we're going to calculate that. That's going to be pass 2. And then my third cut .75 cut depth on the line, same bit. This will be the final pass, right? Pass 3. All right. And what that would look like here if we were to preview the visible tool pass, okay, it's going to make that cut, and let me do a kind of a profile cut around here. Profile cutout, 3/4 of an inch thick on the outside of the line, using a 1/4 inch end mill. 0 to 3/4 outside right of the line, 3/4 inch end mill. This will be my profile cutout. Profile 1 for right now is good for the name, just for preview purposes. And let's get up close and personal here. Preview that visible tool path. I didn't add any tabs or anything on this, just for the purpose of being able to get rid of that waste. And there's my miter cut. Okay. All right, so you just learned how to lay out a 45-degree miter cut on the end of a board using 3 individual vector lines spaced a 1/4 inch apart, taking 1/4 inch passes for the first, 1/2 inch for the second, 3/4 for the third. And that'll create the miter. If you were doing it on both sides, you would repeat that, and on the top and everything, cutting on the line. Now, if we are doing a chamfer toolpath, we need to make sure that we're not chamfering on this bottom line here, right? We're just chamfering on 3 cuts. Okay? We need to make sure that on our chamfer that our vector lines that we're cutting on the correct side of the line and everything. Okay? Now, when you select a vector with the chamfer toolpath, it's going to create these arrows. And these arrows, ladies and gentlemen, indicate shallow to deep part of the cut, right? Which way you're chamfering. The arrow heads are pointing toward the deepest part of the carve. So if this is the inside of my box and that's the outside, I need to be going this way on the outside of the line. So I need to be sloping upward right? I need to be sloping upward, but I need to be on the outside of that line, sloping inward, sorry. So basically, when I'm cutting here, I'm cutting down to there. The deepest part is where the arrows are pointing. The deepest part is out here. All right. Now, my bit, you'll see those lines get longer in just a moment. I'm going to use a 90-degree V-bit. And my cut depth is going to be 3/4. You'll see those lines extend here. I'm cutting from this inside vector out to here, chamfering down to create that miter cut. Now, if I hold down my shift key and I select this vector as well, sorry, I'm still in tab. I was still in node editing mode. Sorry. If I select this vector, hold my shift key down and select this vector and this vector, you can see this top one and the side one are correct. This one is backwards. I need to change the start point. I need to change the start point on my lines. So, on this line here, I need to go into node editing mode, and I need to make this the start point up here so those lines go out. Okay? Okay. All right, so I would calculate this toolpath. Reset the preview back to my board. Let's kind of look from the front view here, and let's tilt this down just a little bit like that. Get up close and personal with it. All right, preview. The selected toolpath is fine, or visible toolpath, either one. Okay. Now if I ran that profile cut to cut that out, we have our 3 cuts, our 3 miters, right? So with the new chamfer toolpath, it makes things so much easier, right? But if we didn't have the chamfer toolpath because we were in an older version of the software or something, then we could very simply just set up our 3 lines. You know, the same 3 lines here. We would do it here at the top and here at the side. And we would just create our passes. You know, and to be honest, we could, if I created the lines, I could just create one cut. What I mean by that, ladies and gentlemen, if I selected this line, this line, this line, not this one, sorry, this one, and this one, and I copy and paste, rotated it, and dropped it here. Okay, let me grab it on this side and snap it to there where it belongs, and then copy and paste. Rotate the 0 key. I'm using the 0 key. 1, 2. Grab that on this line here and snapped it to there. Right? To create those lines, I could take at that point, ladies and gentlemen, I could come in and trim here, 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 and here. I could trim here, 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 and there. Do the same thing on this side. Follow this around there and that around there. And that would create my vectors. I got to join them together. So 1, 2, 3. Join those 3 as one. Next one is already joined. And this one is already joined. So I could just create my 3 passes. Open up this first toolpath, and again, let's open that one up. Select this line that goes all the way around here and calculate. Second toolpath would be this line, calculate on the line with that VBit. Third would be this line, calculate, and the results would be the same, right? Hey, Big Daddy Fish, thank you for that super chat, man. Thank you. Your donation is greatly appreciated, man. Good to see you tonight. All right. And so those 3 ways there would end up with the same part. Now, great question. JR asked, what's the time difference between the 2? Right? All right. Well, based on my speeds and feeds and my cut settings for my tool, could be different from yours depending on your machine and everything. The 3 cuts going all the way around the 3 sides, we're looking at 5 minutes and 51 seconds. 5 minutes and 51 seconds. And the chamfer, 13 minutes and 14 seconds. Right? The way it kind of retracts and stuff like that. Yep. So, a few more minutes added. Now, it does have more movements and everything. If I use the same vectors, right? Now that I have this one singular vector, let's give it a fair shake. Let's give the chamfer toolpath a fair shake. Since this vector here is now, kind of put together and everything, let me change the start point on it. So go into node editing and let me reverse the start point. If I kept the start point, all I have to do is actually just change it here, right? And everything. Let me see. Slope upward. Let's go into that. Inward. There we go. All right. So I don't have to change the start point. I just got to change the configuration here. All right, if I calculated this, okay, giving it a fair shake. The time, 10 minutes and 13 seconds. So 5 minutes and 51 seconds versus 10 minutes and 37 seconds with the chamfer toolpath. Okay. Hey, Lenny, just thinking out loud. Have you chamfered your miter side by side, leaving a veneer layer in between? Then soak the boards to loosen the grain. Then fold the pieces into one piece. So you would shallow that cut up. We still need to make sure the angle is important, though, the 45, right? So that's critical. You're kind of thinking about using like that box plate on the table saw that Andrew Klein came out with one time. But you possibly could create that cut, but it's got to be a 45-degree cut. So if you're going to account for that veneer where it cuts down to a certain depth, right? It still needs to be cutting at a 45-degree angle. And if I change the depth, here and everything, does it change my angle of my cut? I'm not sure. Let's find out. If I go cut depth, let's say I went 0.7. Let's use the right keyboard, 0.7. My miter angle, because it's a 90-degree V-bit, still shows, a 45-degree angle. So, yeah, you could do that, right? Possibly do that, right? No problem. To leave that veneer, and then, yeah, you could soak it and bend it and that kind of thing. All right, JR says, so if I was doing all 4 sides and adding the profile cutout, 7 to 8 minutes. Yeah. So let's look at the 3 sides with the profile cutout, right? The three individual toolpaths with the profile cutout, 9 minutes and 26 seconds. So yeah, you're about right at the 10 minutes, right? 7 to 8 minutes. 9 minutes 20. That's based on my speeds and feeds now, JR. I'm traveling at 35 inches a minute for the feed rate and stuff with that bit. On the chamfer toolpath, if you did the chamfer toolpath with the cutout, you're about 14 minutes with the profile cutout. And the profile cutout needs to be at the bottom of the list, ladies and gentlemen, because it's the final cut. Okay, all right. So now we haven't gotten all the good stuff. It's 9 o'clock, and we're making sides of boxes and all, but we haven't even laid out the models and everything. This is important. Okay, so whichever toolpath we choose to do, either one of the 2 methods will work, okay? So, since that's the case, right, for my part, I don't need to reinvent the wheel on these other 3 here. I don't need to reinvent the wheel on these other 3 and redraw the lines and retrim and blah, 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 blah. All I need to do is I'm going to select my 3 lines, holding that shift key down. I'm going to group them together for the moment. No, I'm not going to group them together. Leave them ungrouped. I'm going to hold down the control key and drag and snap this one to here. Hold down the control key and drag and snap that one to there. Hold down the control key, drag and snap that one to there. And I'm even going to hold down the control key, drag and snap that one to there. Okay. Now, let me make sure I did not snap on that one. I did snap. Okay. Now, my box sides are 6 by 6. And this one's also supposed to be 6 by 6. So let me fix that. For some reason, when I drew it in SketchUp, it got 5.9935. It needs to be 6 by 6. So I'm going to ungroup that. I'm going to change the size to 6 by 6. Okay. And this inside I don't need. That just shows me where my miter is. That box there, right? And all. I don't need that. Okay. Now stand by one moment. Need to make sure they're all 6 by 6. Okay. It just threw me for the loop that it wasn't 6 by 6. All right, so I can get rid of that. I'm missing a line. Let me undo that copy and paste here. Let me change this size. I'll ungroup this now. Let me change that 6 by 6 size. fix that. That was a glitch in SketchUp. Always double check your vectors, right? And let me hold down that control key, snap that, there we go. That's better, don't need that. I do not, if I ungroup this, ungroup, I do not need this inside vector. I can leave it so it shows me where my models and all, where my miters are for my models and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to delete them. I'm going to, let me undo this one. I'm not going to delete them, but what I am going to do, let me ungroup these. U for ungroup on the keyboard, by the way. I'm going to copy them to the other side. I'm going to select this one, this one, this one, that one. And I'm actually going to move it, not copy it. Move to other side. So that be because this is a two-sided project. When I flip this over, I'll have those vectors. Oh, there's one one over there. Let me I didn't need that. Let me make sure that I didn't take my border side. Yep, I did. Hold on, Control Z to undo. When you're selecting things, Laney, pay attention to what is getting selected. 1, 2, 3, 4. Move to other side. Make sure my borders are still there. Wonderful. Flip over here. And this will show me where my models and stuff can be carved and everything. Okay. All right. So now I've got my insides done. I just need to recreate the toolpaths. We're good to go there. And yes. Let me flip back over. You're absolutely right. I knew that, but I forgot to do that. So thank you very much. I'm going to go into here, node editing. And I'm going to just really quickly, I'll cut the line here, cut the vector, cut the vector, cut the vector. Cut, cut, cut. I'm going to select these three here, get out of node editing mode. And I'm going to flip them, mirror, create a mirror copy, flip about job center, flip vertically to the other side. I'll use my scissors to cut there, there, and there. And there. There and there. Okay. Excuse me. And let's reselect. Give me one moment. There we go. Select that, that, and that. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. All right, join. I should have 3 closed vectors. 3 closed vectors. And that would have its own, you know, set of toolpaths. First pass, let's set up the toolpaths here. I'm just going to do the first, second, third pass method. So hold down the shift key, select this, that, that, and that. I'm going to use the vector selection order and calculate. Second pass. This, 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 that. Calculate. Third pass. Okay, this one's going across the bottom. Let me. All right, I'm going to move this border down out of my way for a minute. Okay, one more time. First, second, third. All right, got to move this one too. There we go. Third, fourth, and fifth. It's hard to see if that thing is pink or what color is my layer. Well, that's why. Let me change that color. Now I'm able to see if it's pink. There we go. All right, 1, 2. Come on, Laney. Work your magic, man. What's wrong with you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And of course, you're an idiot. You selected them backwards. God almighty, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5. Gosh, there we go. And that's going to be pass number 3, and I don't want it to turn that off after that. I'm going to hit group, G for group. Open up pass number 3, and then I'm going to select that group. Make sure my vector selection order is still selected. I need to change that vector selection order for pass number 2. All right, let's go back into pass number 2 and make sure that order is vector selection order. There we go. All right, so now we have our 3 toolpaths that are going to do the first pass, first pass, first pass, second pass, second pass, second pass, third pass, third pass, third pass. Now I would definitely be using 2-sided tape on the back of this against my wasteboard. And to make sure that, you know, I'm still solid here, you know. It's not going to cut them loose or anything because I'm still the whole bottom except for this one. That one would be a concern to me, you know. And I'm not doing an overcut. I could do an overcut so it actually makes that cut nice and clean, you know, because it's not really cutting, you know, it is cutting 3/4 and everything, but if I wanted to go a little bit deeper and all, but my profile toolpath, when I run that, it's cutting all the way through, so it creates that nice clean edge and everything. And on the profile toolpath, we have, let's put this one back where it belongs before I do anything else. Okay, so on our profile toolpath, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Calculate, make sure the order is the vector selection order, and calculate. The warning was saying there was, you know, open vectors, and of course it's a profile toolpath, so they can be open. All right, preview that visible toolpath, and there's a cut through. All right, let's answer a question here. Rob Designs, okay, Rob Designs, let's see. Is there a reason you didn't put the border on its own layer and then run it off and then turn it off while you selected your VBit pass? No, Rob, I'm just lazy. But no, I didn't. I could very much have set that border pass. I could have moved it to its own layer. New layer border is what Rob is talking about. And I could, let's make that like a neon blue or something. Not light blue. Let's go gold. And so I could have put that on its own border for sure. And what Rob's saying is, hey, couldn't you put that on its own border and then turn it off so that way it's not in your way, right? And I lost some of my vectors because I have them in groups. So let me ungroup them first and then I'll move those borders. So let's undo, edit, undo, change layer. All right, so move to layer border. Let me turn that visibility off. This one here, move to layer border. Move to layer border. All right, that one is grouped. That's what happened on that one. Let me ungroup that. And then I can move that to that layer. All right, so this one was a duplicate because if I turn that off and turn that on, the border's right there. So this duplicate here can just get deleted. It doesn't need to be there. All right, so what Rob is saying is, hey, could you not have you know, turned off that border layer to hide them so it wasn't in your way, right? So that when you're selecting your vectors, couldn't you have just done that? And Rob, yeah, the answer is yes, you could, right? I was just being lazy, right? Just being lazy. And you shouldn't be lazy, but it's been a long night. It's 9:20. We've been at this for a few hours. All right, so there's the toolpath for the sides and the lid. Now let's get to the nitty-gritty of things. Let me make this active. Here. Let me save my work. That little freeze just got me there. Made me panic for a minute. Saving that file. Hey, we're streaming better tonight. Knock on wood. Not that much buffering. All right, let's go in here and close out of this tool. Let's take our model here, and I want to do two things. Number one, I want to move to the other side, because all the models are going to be on the other side. And number two, flip over. I want to go ahead and move him to the box side sheet, because he's going to get carved on the box side. That main sheet was just when I was importing it, you know, and everything. Okay, and then number three, my boxes, right? The model's upside down here because we flipped the board. I'm flipping end over end, right? End over end and everything. So that's why he's upside down here, because I should have put my miters and everything on side 2 and this on side 1 and blah blah blah, but I didn't. All right, let's make active. All right. Okay. Now, I'm going to he's upside down, ladies and gentlemen. Trust the process. It's because my miter top is up here. Yes, Keith, I did remember to save on my own. It was because the computer froze just a little bit and it scared me. It scared me into saving. Ladies and gentlemen, don't follow my example. Save early, save often. Oh my God. That is so good. Okay. I'm not spinning him around or anything, because when the box cuts everything, I need him facing this way. But I am going to size him down. Right. And I'm going to move him over. Which way do I want to move him? Because I'm going to carve up here. If I carve up here, I just have to be mindful that there's a miter, right? So my depth of cut, I got to be mindful of that depth of cut. I was thinking about doing here and putting some text back there, you know, like a little saying. But I think I'm just going to center him in the box. I think I'm just going to center him in the box down low. So align left to right, because there's going to be, I'm going to do a kind of a pocket for him to fit into, so he's nice and proud around him and everything. Let's see here. Let's yeah. Yep. All right, let's get the other models in. So this is going to be the front of my box. Because Jethro the dog is going to be on the front of the box. So I'm dedicating this to be the front right here. And then these will be my other 3 sides. Now the back is where the top I'm going to put a nice little saying. I'm not going to put like a flower or something goofy or something like that. I'm just going to put a nice little engraving on the top, V-carve. On the back side, I'm going to put his name and date information and stuff like that. And then the 2 sides, I want these angels. I got these angels. So let's import the angels. Here we go. We're going to import another component. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this again is an Aspire feature. The reason why it's an Aspire feature is because I'm importing a multiple 3 third-party files. With VCarve Pro and VCarve Desktop, I can import into my design, not import, I can bring into my design multiple native 3D model files, .v3m, that are native to Vectric. You would get those like on Design and Make and things. But third-party model files, STL, OBJ, .x, .r, and things like that. Those are third-party model files. And in Vectric VCard Desktop and Pro, it's only one third-party model file per project. Pablo, the dog has already been cremated, yes. The dog passed away and has been cremated. And we're building an urn for the puppy, the dog, yes. So I'm bringing in more than one third-party model file, and that requires Aspire to be able to do. Okay. Now, if these were, native, like I went on designandmake.com and I purchased a .v3m model of angels or whatever, I could do that too. And then I could do it in Desktop and Pro, and I could bring in Jethro still. I just couldn't emboss him. Right. That's an Aspire feature. The very first thing that we did. So we would have to find a model or have a model created. And I could have taken the photo, right, of Jethro. I could have taken the photo and given it to a modeler like my team and everything, and had them make a custom 3D model, 2.5D, should I say, versus 3D 2.5D model of Jethro. And they would have done a very professional look and everything. Kool-Aid, man, thank you so much for the super chat, bud. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you. Thank you. And everything. All right, let's bring in this angel number 1 here. I almost, if I was gonna, I almost did, besides this urn, this was a last minute change. I was gonna do a lion, a nice, like jewelry box with a lion on it, a real lion, and I had this lion here that I was going to do, but we're doing angels and urns tonight. All right, let's bring this angel in. Okay, now, based on how the modeler creates the model, the actual modeler and all, is going to determine, where, which way or how I need to orientate this model. Right now, we're facing in my perspective, if I'm looking at a top view down, I'm facing a kind of a side view, so I need to rotate this instead of a top view. I need to go to the right side. Okay. And the model is upside down, so I need to rotate this 180 degrees. Okay. And then I need to center the model and everything. Right. And on the size of the model, remember my sides are only 6 inches, 5 1/4, so I'm going to bring that about 5 inches tall. Click apply. And then in my position, I'm going to bring it down. I do not need to rotate or tilt this. This is exactly how the model is going to look. So I'm going to import that in. Now, Pablo, I'm not sure if you're from the United States or a different country. Let me know, because I get people from all over. But we are. She is not going to bury the dog because she has other dogs. She would, if she were to bury the pup, she would want to bury it on her property, and we don't want the other dogs digging them up, right? And also, number 2 is she has a necklace. This has been a dog since she's had, virtually almost like her whole life. She has a necklace that has some of the dog's ashes in it. So the dog was cremated, right? So, and, it just depends on the individual. Like my dog, when my dog passed, she's buried in the backyard, but there's not going to be anything that's digging her up. When my mom passes, she's getting cremated instead of buried, right? So we just, sometimes we burn our dead, sometimes we bury them, right? It just depends. Okay. All right. And it's planning permission. No, don't need any of that. Not at all. I could bury my mother in my backyard. I don't need permission. All it does is it converts my property into a cemetery, and I no longer have to pay property taxes. So, it would probably be best to ask permission to bury a human in your backyard. But for animals, no. And everything. But she just doesn't want the others to dig it up. All right. So this is our second angel. Or our angel, not our second angel. This is our other model here. And everything. And so that angel is going to be on the side. And remember, we're upside down, right? So I should have, when I imported her, I should have imported her upside down, but I wanted her upright so y'all could see. Now I'm going to turn her upside down. And the way she faces is going to be very important, because I want both angels, depending on which side you're looking at, I want both angels facing the front. Okay, both angels facing the front. So let's rotate. Let's rotate her around. (180 degrees). Okay. Let's get her centered in the box. Now, if on this one here, the top is down here, guys, the top of the box is down here because it's flipped on the y-axis. So if this is the top, she's facing here, that would make this the front of the box here. So it's very important that this side here, she's mirrored. So when I take this and hold down the control key and drag a copy over here, I need to mirror her. Oops, I did not need a copy of that. Let me uncheck both of those. Okay. To verify, she is carved in. Okay. Awesome blossom. Okay. So that's going to be the two sides. And the back is going to be a V-carve inscription. Let's go ahead and let me I will ask, I'll make something up now, but I will ask the actual owner what she wants it to say. But let me just past pet quotes. We're going to I don't know what to say as far as something to make. I'm trying to make something up on the fly, but I don't. How? Let's see. I know you will miss your pet. I know your house will see him. I'm here for you. Know that. Loved you from the tip of their wet nose to the end of their fairy tale. Could not have had a better life. Okay, so let's do this. Here's what we're going to do for the text. I'm going to actually draw the text within a vector box tool. And it's going to say Jethro will be deeply missed. He left paw prints on every heart. All right, let me see if I can get this to fill in a little bit better. Let's go no margins, and let's go, I don't want to go Times New Roman on this. And this, even though it's minor, as long as it doesn't carve too deep, I'm not worried about it going past this box or anything. Let's see if we can I'm going to use a monotype Corsiva. Monotype Corsiva. All right, let's see here. He left, let's enter that there. Space. He left paw prints on everyone's heart who knew him. All right. Jethro will be deeply missed. Let's take he left. He left all right. That, still not quite happy with that, but that's okay. We're going to go with that. Let's close that up. Make sure there's no extra capitals or anything crazy like that. I'm going to make this a little bit taller here, and I want to add just a period at the end. All right, Jethro will be deeply missed. He left paw prints on everyone's heart who knew him. That's fine. It's just making something up, ladies and gentlemen. He will, I will ask the owner what she actually wants to say there. And I actually want that. I actually want that to go here. So let me copy or cut that there, select this and paste. I want that on the top. On the back is going to be his name and everything. Now the top is square and all 4 miter cuts are square, so it doesn't matter which way it's facing. That's good. I'm happy with that. I don't like the layout of the text, you know, but that's what it is. Okay. And it is what it is. All right, now here on the back of this one, and again, it doesn't matter which way this is rotated. It's important that this is rotated the proper way. I'm going to put in, this is not going to be monotype Corsiva. It's going to be a different font. We will go with definitely not that font. Let's see here. We're going to go with I don't want a bunch of fonts on this thing, you know. You got to try to keep it somewhat consistent, and it just really needs to be just something plain, honest, to be honest with you. It doesn't need to be, I don't want cursive. I don't know why I keep choosing cursive. Damn it, that's a cursive one. Excuse my language, that's a cursive one as well. Let's just go, we'll go old school Times New Roman. I'll figure out the fonts later when I'm actually carving this, because I actually have to make this one. We're going to go all capitals, J-E-T-H-R-O, and normal margins. I do not like that font, but the date that he passed, okay, I'm actually going, let me undo that one. I'm actually going to use the regular text box for that one. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it at that because that's not the important part of this design. Okay, because I got to get all the information that she wants and everything. Again, this was just a last minute request. And so these two things here are going to be aligned to this. We're going to align left to right. Align left to right. We'll fill in that later, but we got to rotate it. So I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to hit the number 0 key on the keyboard twice. Remember, because the top is at the bottom there. Okay. All right, let's get into our carvings and everything here and all, and let's start creating this model cut because this model is going to get cut down, but I also need to create the pocket and everything. Don, yeah, you can show me a picture of the few that you've made. You can, in the chat right there, I'll just put in my email, laney.shaughnessy@spindletv.com. I'd love to see photos if you guys ever want to share project photos with me of things that you've done. Laney.s, let me learn how to spell my own name. SHAUGHN at spindletv.com. Email's in the chat, Don. Thank you. All right. I'm going to actually, let's lay out some stuff here. Okay. Let's lay out some stuff. All right. So first thing I'm going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, is I need to decide on the sides. Now on the sides here, I need to decide if these angels are going to be in a dish, or if they're going to be in a square, right? The squares were only here to show me where my, miters and stuff are, right? So if I were going to do some kind of dish or oval kind of thing, that would be one thing. If I'm going to have them in a square kind of pocket, that's another. And all that stuff. So what we're going to do is in the modeling tab in the 3D view, we're going to kind of, let's split the view here. Let's kind of create the model and let's see which way is going to be the best. We'll start with this one here, and I'll flip this around so it's upright for you guys and girls and everybody. There we go. All right, let's see here. We got, let's take this and create a new level. In that new level, I'm going to create a shape. Well, first I'm going to add a zero plane to that new level. And that's just going to give me a surface for them, for the angels. Here, so we have a surface piece of material there now. And I'm going to take this rectangle and do I could do it in a dish style type dish, or I could do flat. If I'm going to do flat, let's go about 0.3 inches deep is good. And that would be a subtract. Let's click apply. And it's not really, I'm not gonna do it on this because that's where my miters are going to, right? So if I were to cut this pocket like this, my miter cut is cutting down there. Wait, let me before I talk out of my butt, let me see something here. My miter cuts on the back side, cutting out this way. No, I'm good. Never mind. I'm fine. I'm doing well. All right, so here is something I need each of you to understand. Okay. Here's something that each of you need to understand and everything. On models, if we look here at this model, we have this kind of haze over this part of the model here. That haze is a virtual zero plane. Okay, so that it's a thin plane that has no height to it, zero, absolutely zero, and it serves two purposes. Visually, it gives me a surface to look at, right? So I can see my pocket and everything. So visually, it serves that purpose. But the second purpose it serves is it lets the software know where zero is. So that plane is actually traveling across all the way through here. But it's transparent over this part. And if we have part of this model sticking through. So if I was looking at this from a side view, not that view, this view right here, that part of the model is sticking up above my zero plane. Now, I can also see that let me close this here for a moment. I can also see that when I look at my shape height, model height tool here, I can see that my minimum Z is 0.3. That's how deep my pocket is. And my maximum Z right now is 0.452. My maximum Z should read 0. Nothing above my 0 plane, right? My surface plane. That's the top of my board. If I carve this right now, all of this material would have to be milled away before the pocket even started to account for that part sticking up above the material. We can't have that. So I have two choices here. Number one, I can reduce the thickness of my model. I can bring my model thickness down on the exact height of my model component. My component. I can go into the properties of that angel and I can bring that height down to, let's say, 0.27. 0.27 and oops, 0.27, and I'll give it a little bit of base height. 0.02, and that'll bring me just 0.010 of an inch under my surface. And when I do that, coming back and looking over here, I need to determine, let me flip this around, right? I need to determine if I have sacrificed any detail or lost any detail versus when it was in its original height, right? So there's lots of detail in that cloth that's kind of draping her and in the wings and everything. So there's lots of detail there. And when I flatten it out, when I bring it down to size, you know, I still have that little bit of detail and everything, but I'm losing some of it. So I have to determine, do I make my pocket, because it's 3/4 inch board, right? Do I make my pocket a little bit deeper, or do I sacrifice, a little detail, right? My pocket, my model in its original state was 0.452. I'm at 0.3, less than 3/8. Even if I went 0.375, right, half my board, 0.375, I'm gaining a little bit more detail on my model, right? So let's say on my component here, I bring that component, the pocket, let's say I make that pocket 0.375, which is only like a little over a 1/16 of an inch more. And then on my angel, I can actually bring her up 0.3. I'll go 0.365. Oops. 0.365. And 0.01 base height. Okay. Now, that scares me of being like a flat spot right there, so I'm going to bring this down to 3.55, that 0.010 of an inch. Just gives me 0.010 of an inch of material to get milled away before that carve. All right. So now I'm good with that detail. There's still quite a bit of detail and everything in there. And we can go from there. Now, let me take and teach you guys and girls something that you may not know. I'm going to make a copy of this angel. I'm going to copy it to the other sheet just for a moment. And I'm going to teach you about a tool that is very rarely used called Multiply, the Multiply tool. It's a combine mode. It's not a tool. It's a combine mode when you're working with models. So when you're working with models and components, how those components adding one model to another, subtracting one model from another, merging two models together, merge low, where both models keep the low point, and multiply. Multiply, we are multiplying the pixels of the top model by the pixels of the bottom model, and we work with a factor of 0 and 1. So it causes the model to fade, which you'll see in just a minute. When we multiply anything by 1, it's itself. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 0 is 0. So when we multiply anything by 0, it fades to 0. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's come over here onto this main board. And I'm going to do a dish. And I'll show you where 90% of the time a multiply combine mode will come into play. So I'm going to actually rotate Okay, I'm going to take and draw a circle or a dish. I'm going to create a shape on that dish. And let's say that I go a curved profile. I'm going to go 45 degrees. I'm going to go no base height, no limit, and I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to click apply. Okay, so here's my dish. Now, that is quite ugly. I'm going to go 30 on that instead of 45. I want the dish to be a little bit more subtle. Cool. What kind of wood is going to be used on this? Because of the detail and everything, I want the detail to really stand out. I want I want to be able to add some shadow undertones with some glazing around the lower parts of the models and everything. I want to do some glazing with a dark brown. So I'm going to use a maple, and for the box, it's going to be maple. And I'll probably have some walnut accents in it. Probably after the box is all three sides are glued together, I'll probably run them on my table saw, and I'll probably put walnut splines on the four corners to break up the sides and everything. But I am doing this as a continuous grain, so I might not do that. But I will probably have miter splines in there, and they would be walnut. And everything, and the glazing, the brown glazing, is going to help kind of complement the tone of the walnut wood. Okay, so I have a nice little dish here. Now I'm going to take my component, my model here, when you are creating a shape, ladies and gentlemen, and you select a vector and you click apply, before you go clicking on anything else, click on Start a New Component. So it locks that in, right? That design in, it doesn't go away. Beautiful. And let's change that combine mode. All right, there's my dish. Okay, let's take the angel at this point and align it to the center here. And I'm going to get her to size down. Now, my dish, as of right now, my dish has a component height, a depth, should I say, a depth of 0.3684. I'm going to go 375. I'm going to go 3/8 on my dish here. Okay. I am going to make sure that my angel, at least at the center area here, is less than my 3/8. So I'm going to go 0.355 and 0.01. All right. Now, this is multiply. Ladies and gentlemen, 90% of the time you're going to, the multiply occurs with dishes and all, but there's a lot of reasons why you can use it. And I'm going to teach a class one day on multiply and stuff, but here's the lesson for dishes, okay, for dishes. Now, in this particular example here, once again, we have a Z-plane. And the Z-plane is the top of our board. That's the top of our 3/4 inch board right there. And we cannot have anything sticking above the top of our board. So if I come into my height here, again, my minimum Z is 0.3723. That's the depth of my dish right now. And my model has my maximum Z has a positive number. That means that almost 3/16, 0.1867, right, is sticking up above the top of my board. That would mean my 3/4 inch board can't be 3/4. It would have to be, let's say, 1 inch, and I would have to mill down, right? Kind of thing. It can't have that. So I need to get that model to fit in my dish while trying to maintain as much detail as I can without flattening it out too much. I need these areas here around the wings because remember, my dish, as my dish gets shallower, right, it's getting shallower, these parts of the wings are sticking above. So I kind of need those wings to taper down. I need them to go from their height to 0. So from the middle of my dish, we'll call that 1. And the outside of my dish, we'll call that 0, surface 0. I need to multiply this angel by 1 based on the depth of my dish and the outside by 0 so that it maintains its height in the center, but as it gets towards the edge, it tapers down. It's called multiply. Here's how we do it. Here's the trick. We are going to make a duplicate copy of our 0 plane and our dish. So we're going to select our dish. Let's put the dish below the 0 plane here. We're going to select our 0 plane and our dish. And we're going to duplicate them. Okay. So we have 2 copies. Organizing my component tree, I need to take my component, which is the dish, and I need to move it up under the zero plane. So I need one zero plane, one dish, one zero plane, one dome. So the one down here is going to the component, instead of a subtract going this way, we're going to make it an add, so it domes up. And we're going to change that so it domes up. And the height, we're going to set the height to 1 inch. 1 and 0. 1 and 0. So the height is going to be at the center of this dome is going to be 1 inch. Okay. All right. Now, in my component tree here, let's go full 3D on this one. Let's spin this around so you can see what's happening. Right, I've got this, right now I've got this dome. Let's turn off the angel for a minute. We're not dealing with her right now. We're dealing with our domes and dishes and all. I'm going to call this, I'm going to rename this to dome so you know it's a dome. So I'm going to call it dome, D-O-M-E. And I'm going to call this dish. Now my dish is the normal size of my project, 3/8 of an inch deep. Okay? My zero plane is 0. My dome is 1. It's going to be the multiplier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my zero plane and my dome pair, and I'm going to group them together into one group. I'm going to rename that group to multiply. Rename. Lord, Laney, where's your mind? Multiply. All right. And currently that group is in an add mode. I'm now going to change the combine mode to multiply. And when I do, it's going to disappear. Let's turn off the dish for right now so you can see that let's get rid of this. Bear with me a second. Okay. My multiply it's 0. It's nothing, right? But it is still there. It's a dome that is 1 inch tall, but it's virtually invisible. It's going to be used as a multiplier, so it's not part of the model. It's invisible, transparent, if you will. We are going to take our 3/8 inch dish in the center there, and we're going to be multiplying by 1 at the center. That's the height of our dome. 3/8 times 1 is 3/8. Out on the outer edge, that's 0. So 0 times 0 is 0, right? Okay, 3/8 times 0 is 0. So as that 3/8 model thickness gets towards 0, it's going to start tapering to nothing. So at the full center, 100%, then 90%, 80%, 70%, 60, 50, 40, 30, all the way out to the edge to 0, that 3/8 of an inch is getting multiplied by that 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, 3, 2, 1, 0, until it virtually is nothing, right? So here's what happens to the angel. Let's leave the dish off for a minute. Let's turn off the multiply and turn the angel on so you can actually see the effect take place. So let's get our angel turned on and let's get her turned around here. Okay? Where you all can see her very well. Good. All right. Now, whatever object you're multiplying, in this case it is the angel, we need her to taper outward to nothing. That needs to be below your multiplier. It needs to be below your multiplier. When I turn on the multiply, watch the outer edges of the angel. Watch what happens to those outer edges. Okay? They begin to taper down. So from 1, the highest point, to nothing. Okay? 1 to nothing. Now, let's come in and turn the multiplier off and turn our dish back on so you can see the full effect of what happens. So this is our standard angel, no modifications right now in our dish. And you can see those dark areas. Those dark areas are identifying all the areas that are exceeding the 0 plane right now. Okay. And it's important that when I turn on that 0 plane, or the multiplier for the angel now, to watch what occurs. Okay. All right. Now, the most important thing here is to make sure that your angel in her size is less than the size of the dome, or the dish, sorry, the dish, so that she fits underneath that cloudy haze, that 0 plane. So I want to look at her properties. I want to look at my dish properties first and make sure my dish is actually right now 3/8 of an inch. And it is. Good. My dish shape is 3/8. My model, my angel, has to be less than 3/8. And my 0.355 plus 0.01 is 365. That's less than 3/8. Earlier, a moment ago, when I typed that in, it didn't take for whatever reason. But now you can see that nothing is above my 0 plane, and we can also verify that. We can also verify that by going to our size of model tool, set size of model. My minimum Z is 0.3723. My maximum Z is 0. The top of my board, 0. That's what it should be. There should be no positive number there. It's all a dish. There should be negative number, right, in my minimum. But there should be no positive number. There's nothing sticking above the top of my board. And let's hit cancel on this, and let's go back and turn the multiplier off so you can see the full effect when the model's sized properly. Turn the multiplier off. You'll see that the model then exceeds. You can see it sticking up above the 0 plane, and if we look at that height, you see I have a positive number, almost 1/8 of an inch, right? Almost 1/8 of an inch. So the multiplier, when it's on, it is counteracting the dish there, and it doesn't always have to be a dish, but this is 90% of the time where you would see the multiplier being used. And I'll teach a class on multiply one day, you know, and everything. But when we turn that on, she is going to taper from the center at keeping the full height outward. She's going to start tapering down to 0. She's going to stay at the full height in the middle, her full thickness that I set her to. And then as she goes out, 90%, 80%, 70%, 60, 40, 50, 30, 20, you know, all the way down to 0, right? And here's the cool thing. Here's the cool thing. Because this is all now got a multiplier to it, and this is all 0 out here, it kind of acts like a clipping tool. It kind of acts like a clipping tool. And what I mean by a clipping tool, if any of you have ever played with the clipping and the modeling and stuff, let's go into the split view here, and let's turn her up right here. Okay. I could size, if I wanted to, I could size her up and make her bigger. Let's say I was going to cut off some of the wing or whatever. Size her up and make her bigger so she kind of fills that dish a little bit more. And when I size it up, remember the thickness changes. So let me go in and change the height here back to my 355, 0.355, 0.355, and my base height 0.01. Okay. All right. I can make her bigger, right, where she kind of fills in. I'm cutting off the wings and all that, but everything outside of 0, right? Remember, it's tapering from 1, its full size in the middle, to 0, because of our multiplier 1 and 0. It's tapering out, so anything out here is 0, right? So it doesn't exceed my 0 plane, and it tapers that model down to 0, right? To 0. And I could even reposition her, no matter where I reposition her. Let's say I want to reposition her here so her wing is in. I'll get a little bit of the palm of her hand. Let's actually go up a little bit like that. Get a little bit of her palm of her hand. And let's grab the top of the wing. Let's bring the top of the wing back in. To play a little bit. So we just see the top of her hand. And no matter what I adjust and everything like that, as long as I keep her under the 3/8, she's got to stay under 3/8, which she is, then my multiplier is going to do what it's supposed to do, and it's going to keep her below my 0 plane. And I've got the full thickness here, so I'm maintaining as much detail as I can until we start getting out to the edge when it starts tapering from 0. Then it starts fading it to nothing, right? To 0. That is multiply, ladies and gentlemen. That is how, and that is why, if you've never used the multiply combine mode and always wondered what it does, that's what it does. And you always, I don't care what the shape is. It doesn't have to be a circle, a dish. It could be another profile. You extrude it up in kind of like a dome shape, and it's always going to be 1 inch tall. 1 and 0. We're always using a multiplier of 1. Any size that dish is times 1 is going to maintain its size. Any times that size that model is times 0 is 0. It's going to fade out to 0. That's the multiply tool in a nutshell. All right. So that was just to give you a little test on multiply and everything. And so going back to our actual design over here, I did not, let's bring this back active again. So if you ever had a model, let's say you put a bass in a dish, you know, a big old fish in a dish or something, and like the tail was sticking out or the head was sticking out or something like that, then you know, you're like, oh, I got to size my model down. So you're making your Z, you're squishing that fish down, you know, and everything, and you're losing a lot of the detail. That's where the multiply tool comes in. Brooks Martin, Laney, can you change the shape height of the dome to say 75 inches? The dome to 0.75. Yeah, but then yes, you can. But remember now, we are now taking the height of our model and we're multiplying it by 0.75, right? Which would be, you know, instead of 100% of the height of my dish, the depth of my dish. If the dome, now we're only multiplying by 0.75. So we're actually squishing it more than it should be, right? So I'm losing some, I'm sacrificing detail. If I go 1, I'm multiplying by 1 the full height of whatever my dish is underneath and things. So there's that, right? And I got, Brooks was part of the class the other day, the private group with Mark Lindsay and everything. And for those of you that might be interested in learning more about like the merge low tool or the multiply tool and its different uses and everything, we can we'll have a class on that, and it'll give you some insight and stuff. Versus changing the shape height of the model. No, your model shape height always has to be less than the size of the dish. The dome plays no role in that part. In order for the model to fit in the dish, period, in the center, at the center point, the center of that model has to come in less than the dish. The dome, the multiplier, doesn't affect that, because the center doesn't multiply. It multiplies by itself, so it's always going to maintain its full depth. It's as it goes out towards 0 is when that multiplier starts really kicking in. So if I don't change the height of the model in the middle to be less than what my dish actual depth is, then the multiply at 1, 0.75, whatever, it's not gonna do what it's supposed to do. My model has to be less than the thickness of the dish, the depth of the dish. It has to fit in. In my case, I fit it in by 0.010 of an inch. And then my multiplier takes over for everything else, keeping that that full thickness in the middle, and everything from the middle, it starts tapering down that model. So as my dish gets shallower, my model tapers down and they meet at 0, right? So there you go. All right, so long story short here is on this model here, let's get here. On this model here, if I didn't want to adjust her height, her thickness and everything, if she was exceeding my 0 point, which she's not, but if I didn't want to reduce anything down, I could use the multiplier on that to fade her down, as long as the middle, the shoulder in this case, that's the highest part of the model, is her shoulder, as long as that is less than the size of my pocket, my dish, my whatever. Okay. All right, so we've got her laid out there. She is laid out just right and everything. So I'm going to basically kind of duplicate what she is with the other one. The other one is centered already, same size and all, but I want to see what my height is here. I've got her at 0.355 and 0.301, and this one here needs to be the same thing, 0.3. 0.355, 0.01, awesome. And then I need to take this here, and I'm going to make that apply that. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this particular situation here, let me close this. In this particular situation here, I am in a spire, so I'm making the pocket. I am making the pocket for her to fit into. Let me go back to, I don't know why those numbers are not keeping, 0.355, 0.01. I don't know why those numbers aren't keeping, but I am making the pocket. I'm creating a shape from a vector. That's an Aspire feature. But I could have created a vector boundary around my model to create a vector boundary. Okay, that boundary right there. And I could have selected that boundary and this here, and I could have done a pocket cut to the depth of 0.375, right? I could have done a pocket cut to mill that material away, get a small bit that can fit in there, 1/8 inch or whatever, or make your model smaller, but I could have done a pocket cut to mill all that wood out. Then I could have done a 3D rough cut and a 3D finish cut to carve the angel in there, because that wood would have still been there, and I could have carved that angel in there. So I could do this If it wasn't a third-party model file or what have you, where I have multiples in the the project, I could do this same thing in Vectric VCarve Desktop or Vectric VCarve Pro. Okay. Hey, Bruce, welcome from Australia, man. All right. Welcome from Australia. Come on to a class in the next week, coming up week. We do it every other week. I got a magic card trick. It's from Australia. You might know it, but I'll show it to you. I'll do a card trick. Magic. All right. I love card magic. All right. So there are my 4 sides here and everything. I got one more to do right here. I got the front to do here. Now, my model, this guy here, it currently has a height of 0.274, because of the model itself. Remember, this was the emboss and everything. I don't need to make it any bigger. It is the size that it is. So if we go to the 3D view over here, let's spin this around. Okay. This is Jethro. I want to, I sized them down, right, to fit on my board and everything. Let's get a front on view and spin it around. Come on now. Spin, bad boy, spin. And ladies, ladies and gentlemen, it's 10:28. So we ran long, and we might have to wrap this up here after I do these toolpaths, for sure. Okay. Here's our model. I'm going to make this, I'm going to go point 375. See if I can bring some of that detail back, because I shrunk them down to fit in there. Okay, and let's see, what size is he compared to? He's right there, kind of right at the size of the box, so can't really make him too much bigger. Okay, detail still looks good. All right, let's create his pocket. And oops, he's going to stick up here for just a second. All right. Okay, so now I need to close that. And on that component that I just made, the height is 3/8, right? So on Jethro, I'm gonna do him the same way I did the angels. I'm gonna go 355. I want that 10,000ths of an inch and 0.01. Actually, he's got, because he's an embossed model, he's got base underneath him, so I'm going to go no base, and I'm going to put 365 here. I'll just do the full 365. Try to maintain as much of that surface detail, because he was an embossment. For those of you that were joining us at the very beginning of this, the first thing we did was bring in Jethro the model, this pulley, and we did an emboss function. Okay. All right. So here are my front and 2 sides. I think that would make really nice detail, for the front and 2 sides of the box. The back of the box, let's create the toolpaths for the text so we can kind of see everything. So let's select, go back to our drawing tools. We don't need our drawing tools for this, but let's select this and let's turn this off and this off. V-carve toolpath. No flat depth, 60-degree V-bit I'm going to use. Actually, that's a lie. I am going to go 22-degree V-bit because it's very small. Very small. I want depth and definition out of my cut. 22-degree V-bit on the text. And we'll calculate that. Preview that visible toolpath there. Okay. All right, let's create our, let's turn off, we're on sheet 1, we're active here. Let's create our toolpaths. So I'm going to select the, and let's bring in our model tree, our component tree, and everything. Jethro's at the bottom here. I'm going to bring him up. So we can see him in the 3D view there. All right. I'm going to create the vector boundary on Jethro real quick. I'm going to create the vector boundary on angel number 2. Okay. I am going to, for right now, I'm going to use these 3 boundaries. 3D rough cut. 1/4 inch end mill for me in this case. I just want to hog away. It's a very small area, and I can hog away. I'll see how much the 1/4 inch bit can do. I might even switch to an 1/8. I want to try to get away as much of that waste material as possible. But I'm going to use the selected vectors as the boundary. Z level raster, and I want to cut with the grain. Now my grain is going to be running along the board here, so I want to raster along angle of 0. And we're going to calculate that. Okay. Preview that visible toolpath. Thank you very much, Sylvia. Appreciate that. And sorry we're running. I know it's a long night, but we are literally, for those of you that are sticking around, we're literally 10 minutes, if that, to our goodbyes. But thanks, Sylvia. Appreciate that. Alright, and on the next one I'm going to turn the preview off or down a little bit so it's faster. But there's our rough cuts. Okay. Now, on that rough cut, very important that I want to make sure that there's no boundary offset. Good. Okay, 3D finish toolpath. For this, I'm going to use multiple bits because I want as much detail as possible, right? But I also want to reduce my time a bit. So I'm actually going to go the full gamut. And the I'll show you how to optimize the toolpaths too. But I'm going to go on this one here. I've got a 1/8 inch tapered ball nose. I'm going to go 8th, 16th, and 32nd. I'm going to go the full spectrum here. So I'm going to throw in my 16th as well. And I'm going to throw in my 32nd My 30-second is eluding me, so let's create one real quick. Let's go under tapered ball nose. I know I have a 30-second in there, but let me find my category. Actually, my whole category is missing on tapered ball nose. That's all right. We'll just go up here. Let's create a new tool. That tool has a 1/4 inch shank diameter. So 0.25. It has a total of 3 flutes. And it is a tapered ball nose. It has a side angle of 5.3. It has a radius of 0.03125 divided by 2. It's got a 64th inch radius. It is 3 flutes. We're going to go 8% on the step over, 15% on the clearance pass step over. We're going to go, I'm going to spin that very small flutes. I'm going to spin that at 14,000 RPMs. And I'm going to travel at 45 and plunge at 15. All right, let's go ahead and click apply and select. So that's in there as well. Okay. And my, there we go. So I should have my 32nd, should be the second bit, 1/8 inch, 32nd, and 64th. Let me look at, make sure those parameters are right. 1/4 inch diameter, 5.3, 0.156. Yep, okay. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to use the selected vectors as the boundary. My detail is here. I'm going to just actually kind of reduce that down a little bit, even though that's quite small as it is. Offset, I'm going to raster, and I'm going to raster with the grain. And calculate. Now, for these 3 cuts, if I wanted to optimize my toolpath, I could, since those pockets are flat, with a small enough bit, ladies and gentlemen, I could have selected those boundaries around, let's say, the angel. The boundary of the rectangle and the boundary of the angel. And I could have created a pocket cut 3/8 of an inch deep, because that's how deep the pocket is. And I could have, it would have carved that pocket down with get small bits so it can get around and fit around everything, right? It would have created that pocket cut. And then my 3D rough cut, I could have just selected the vector of the angel and just done the 3D finish on the angel. Maybe let it go past the line a little bit on a boundary offset, but that would speed up so my bits didn't have to do all the flat work, right? So my small bits didn't have to do the flat work. But we're talking about a 3-inch tall part here. It's not, I mean, if this was 12 inches or 8 inches or whatever, then I'm going to really be concerned about the time. This isn't a commission job. I'm doing this as a donation. I have no problem dedicating a little bit of time to this, but this is not going to be a whole lot of time for the cardinal. Okay, so, but just know, let's say you have a model in a pocket like that, and the pocket is, you know, part of the model or whatever. Create a boundary around the actual detail. Have a boundary around your main part. And you do a pocket cut down to the depth that it's supposed to be. If you don't know the depth, you can look in the properties of the model, but you can also look in the material setup, and it'll tell you your model size, your model Z-plane. It'll tell you how deep it needs to cut. And do a pocket cut. Have that pocket cut all that waist down to that depth. And then use the vector that's around the detail. Do your 3D finish cuts and rough cuts for the 3D on just the detail area, so it's not doing all the flat work, and that's going to reduce your it's going to reduce your runtime significantly, right? And so In this case, I'm probably going to have a few hours into this, yeah, still, and everything, but they're small, so I'm okay with it, but you could optimize. Ronnie, as Laney, always Laney, I appreciate your help. Thank you for hanging out with me this long. For sure, you're a fantastic teacher, and I know all learns a ton. Thank you very much. I'm watching behind, but multiplying a lot different than fading a model. Yes. When you fade a model, when you do fading on a component, you have one click where you're keeping, one click where you're fading, right? So if you were fading over a length, I could go from the center to the fade. I am not, my multiplier is going to be a little bit more accurate for me than just where I click and click, you know, keep and fade to here. But they're essentially, it's going to be kind of the same function. But you're probably going to retain more detail with the multiply than you will with a fade. I would have to do a test on that. I would have to do a test on that to determine if that's a fact or not. Kool-Aid, I'd have to do a test on that. All right, let's preview the Mark Coolidge, right? That's Mark. Mark Coolidge, right? But Kool-Aid is cool. All right, preview the visible toolpath. Is it Kevin Coolidge or Mark Coolidge? Am I saying, dog, am I screwing you up, Kool-Aid? Am I screwing your name up, even though we know each other and I know you very well? Give me your name. But how long would it take to carve all of this? Ronnie, hang tight. Once these previews and everything are done. Okay, let's stop right there. Stop. I want you all to see what's happened here. You see that? Cutting through the material. Why is it cutting through the material, Laney, when it's only 3/8 of an inch deep? Because your instructor forgot to go into the material setup over here. And the models are buried down in the bottom of the material when they should be at the top of the material. Carving from the top down. So, yeah. So, very quickly, it's going to be quicker now. It's asking if I want to recalculate all the toolpaths, and I'm going to say yes. So, give it just a quick second. It's going to go through and calculate very quickly. It's going to do both sides because I should have just done the back side, but it won't take very long. And then we'll look at the time. We'll look at the time on that. But yeah, Goofy, I was wondering, I was like, man, why is that taking so long to calculate? It shouldn't. But the model was buried down in the, like at the bottom of the board because I'm a goofball. So we got to go into, before you create, this is the rule now. This is what and I didn't follow it just now. When you're working with a 3D model, before you calculate the toolpaths, go into the material setup, which is located up here above your toolpaths, the material setup. Go into there and make sure the model position is properly positioned in the material. And I didn't do that. Now, let's say that this was a two-sided model, like a chess piece or something like that. And I was carving half the model on one side, flipping the board over, carving half the model on the other. Then I want that model position in the center. I want that model position in the material in the center, not at the top or one side or the other. I want it in the center. So I'm milling the equal amounts of material away to get to that model in the middle. But in this case, this is a one-sided model, and I didn't pay attention. But when you're moving and sizing things around in the background, it's changing that model position in the material without you knowing it. And the first thing you should always do is check that material setup and reposition the model in the material where it's supposed to be. And in this case, the top, carving from the top down. And then calculate your toolpaths, create and calculate your toolpaths from there. So this is almost done. We got a little bit to go, and I was like, and where I should have visually realized what was happening, when I should have immediately realized what was happening, when all of that blue was in the toolpath, when all that blue was in the toolpath, like covering the sides and all, it was showing like all where it had to carve way down deep, up and then over, and way down deep, up and over, and it had all that blue going across. I should have paid attention, but I was talking. I wasn't paying attention. And everything. So it is either calculation or it's frozen right now. I can't tell. It's either calculating or it's frozen right now. So how did we do tonight, ladies and gentlemen? We did good. We did good with no buffering and all that stuff. Wonderful. That's great. We did run long. This is a kind of a big project and everything. I have to fix the chamfer toolpath. That's fine. All right, let's re-preview this. Reset the preview and preview all the toolpaths on this side. I'm going to turn off the tool so it's faster. We don't need to see the tool creating itself and all that stuff. Go from there. I'm actually going to turn, let me do this to save you guys some headache and everything. I'm going to turn your simulation quality down to high. Just so the toolpath's faster on the preview. Just know it's going to come out very good. Preview all toolpaths. That way it'll zip along. Zip along, Cassidy. And we were long, but this was kind of a last minute project, and this is a straight design from scratch for me. I didn't have anything pre-planned. I knew that I went as soon as she asked. I went to cgtrader.com and I bought the bulldog and the two angels. There's my models there. Okay. Still got a that's the taper. Let me see the depth here. Let me flip this around. Bear with me just one moment. 0. All right, still carving too deep, very deep. So stand by 2 seconds, because you run into things like this. That's more than 3/8 of an inch deep right there. Even though my Z number is not showing, right? That's more than 3/8. So I want to come over here and I want to look at. I need to look at two things. So in my material setup, right? You see how she should look here, right? 3/8. That's what it shows here. 3/8. 3/8. That's where I'm supposed to be at. 3/8. So the top of my board is -0, 0.375, 0.375. Okay. Okay, so they're all 0.375. Now I'm gonna take a pause here for just a quick second. That carving, let me click OK here. one at a time. The Angel properties. 0.355 plus 0.01 is 0.365. That's less than 3/8. Good. Number 2. 0.355, 0.01. Less than 3/8. 3. 0.365 because it already had, Jethro the dog already had a bunch of base meat. Okay. Good. So that's that. Now, in my carving, if I open the preview window back up here, watch the depth here. Watch the depth. Let's turn this off. Let's close the tool. Okay? And watch the depth when I turn the, from what I'm seeing here to the 3D finish. Okay? So, on the, when I turn on the preview, you see how much more deep we are? And of course, it's not showing me, there's a 1/4 inch. There's 3/8 right there. And then there's a 1/2 inch right there. Right? So, almost, and that's 0.75. So, what's happening is, it's reversed the depth of cut. Meaning, hold on now, this is gonna blow my mind here for a minute. Because it's a two-sided project, we're gonna throw this at the bottom. Yep, it's gotta be at the bottom. 0 plane. My Z plane is 0 inches. That's the top of the board. The model's carving on the back side of the board, right? Because the front side is all the miters and all that stuff. So it's actually got to be at the bottom here for the 3D cut. So now watch what we got here. Let's say no on this, and I'm going to just do this side. Right click and recalculate all visible models. Yep. So this is important now because it just racked my brain. So it's still side 1. It's considering side 1 being, you know, in this case, the top of the board, and side 2 being the bottom, right? So the models are carving, when I flip it, the models are carving essentially from the bottom in. So that model has to be at the bottom of the material setup, because the material setup is kind of working from the top, you know, of the board. It's not considering the flip. It's not considering the flip. Like when we flip and we're working, you know, on the bottom, that model material setup doesn't change. The material setup doesn't flip. It stays like my board's regular. So my models are down here. So it's got to be at the bottom because it's carving from there. My 0 plane should have been 0, and the cut depth, the model thickness should have been 3/8. Exactly what it showed when I put the model down at the bottom. So that's something it didn't just click until just now. I mean, I know that because I've carved models on two-sided projects before, but I didn't know it, right? I didn't know that it didn't flip. Important to know. Let's see here. Ronald says, if you include the model with the draft on the same, if you include the model with the draft on at the same time with the other models, does it double the thickness? No. No, but you have your model with your draft, and you have your original model that was before it was drafted. If you're talking about if those are on at the same time, they're the same height. They're merged into one another. It doesn't change the thickness. But you do want to turn it off. So, the original you want to turn off. And everything. Yeah. And you're welcome, Walleen. You're welcome. All right. Yeah, so now, hey, this applies in VCarve Pro and Desktop too, ladies and gentlemen. If you're carving models on two-sided jobs, I mean, this all applies, right? This applies. I mean, everything applies. So, R. Wallene, your work is way above my skill. Don't never say that. You just takes time. And I was wondering if you do commission work for a project like this, as my dog Sky, my canine terrier, just passed away this morning. I could very well do that. Something like that for someone. Let me reset that. Let me preview this toolpath. That is what it should look like, ladies and gentlemen. That is much better. That is exactly what it's supposed to look like. So, I would have to, I can't come up with a price right off the top of the head and everything, but I could do something like that as a commission and all. I don't have a lot of time. I don't do a whole lot of commission work, but, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it properly should look like, carved at the right depth. So, once again, going back to that material setup, because this is a two-sided job, the material setup doesn't flip. You know, the model position of the material, it doesn't flip. When we flip from side 1 to side 2 or top to bottom, that doesn't flip. So this is still side 1, right? This is side 2. And the models are on side 2. So they need to be down at the bottom. And look, the model Z plane right down here, like when it's flipped up, is 0. And the thickness is 3/8. Right? Light bulb moment. Light bulb moment. All right. So, let's preview that visible toolpath. There's the text. Let's flip this over really quickly. Really quickly. And, let's open up past 3 toolpath right here. First of all, let's turn off all these toolpaths right here. And turn on pass number 3. Man, you're killing me. Turn off and off. Open up pass number 3. And pass number 3 did not calculate properly. I had that warning that pass number 3 didn't calculate properly, and the reason being is because there were groups, you know, things in groups and stuff, and I had to go back and recalculate, right? So what I'm doing right now is just validating pass number 2 vectors are correct, and pass number 1 vectors are correct. And I'll just open it up really quickly and hit calculate. And then my profile toolpath vectors, and what I'm looking for when I do that is, and the profile toolpath vectors are not correct, they are turned off. Remember, everything is turned off for the profile. So if I turn that layer back on for the border, let me turn off these other 3 to hide the lines. Only 1 or only 3 of the 4, right? So I need to open the profile toolpath, select this and this to add with it, and recalculate it. All right, so let's preview all the toolpaths on this side. All right, I did not have any tabs on the profile toolpath for the purpose of just clearing away the waste here. Let's open this up and look at our, let's preview all sides. and we have multiple views turned on. But there, remember the chamfers at the top for the lid, right? So we got to make sure that our angels are facing the right way, right? And all that stuff. So that's going to be, now of course I'm going to change, and remember the lid is, it doesn't matter which way it's rotated because it glues on any whatever way, right? I'll make sure just the words are facing the right way from the top, reading from the front and everything. But this is a look at our positioning, and I'll clean up. I'll have the base on here and everything. The base gets glued on, and that is the parts. So someone had asked what the total run time would be for this carving, based on my speeds and feeds. It could vary for yours and things like that. And this is our final goodbye here, everybody. For side one that has all of the chamfers and cutouts and everything, which is technically for me going to be side two. I'll carve the models first and then I'll flip the board. And the one thing I did not put in these toolpaths are my alignment pin holes and everything. I got to create the alignment pin holes. But the 1 hour for the chamfer / profile cutout side, right? First pass is 6 minutes. Second pass 10, 14, 10. Chamfer doesn't need to be turned on there. Sorry. 49 minutes for that back side. And on side two, ladies and gentlemen, let's see. It's showing all the sides. So the whole job is 16 hours, start to finish. We are looking at 12 minutes for the V-carve of all the text, 32 minutes for the rough cut, 2 hours and 58 minutes on bit number 1, 3 hours 16 minutes on bit number 2, and 8 hours on bit number 3, that 32nd inch bit. If I look here, where can I optimize my toolpaths? This is my final saying here. My 3D finish cut number 1 is doing all the majority of the work. Right? It's doing all the majority of the work here. Number 2 is coming in and touching up where the first bit cannot fit. And number 3 is doing even the finer, but number 3 has this rise and travel back and forth going on here that does not belong. And it is showing it as, let me turn this on its side. There's a lot of up and down on number 3 because of all these flats, right? The flats. And the flats I don't need. The flats I don't need. That would be optimizing the toolpath. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to end right now and say our goodbyes up to this point. And in our next class, the beginning of our next class, we are going to optimize these toolpaths to reduce our runtime. Right now we're at 16 hours. Let's see what we can bring it down to if we do a bit of 2D carving with our 3D to reduce the runtime. Okay, that'll be our next week's class, how to optimize long run times, and that'll be, it won't be this coming week, it'll be next week. You, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to say goodbye. It's 11 o'clock at night. People got to sleep and go to work. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much for all of this. Hopefully you learned something in this class that you will find useful and be able to take to your projects. And for you super chatters, I want to thank you very much for your donations. Big Daddy Fish and Kool-Aid, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated as always. As always. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a wonderful evening. We will see you soon.